落魄谷中寒风吹，春秋蝉鸣少年归。荡魂山处食人泪，定闲游走摸象背。逆流河上万仙退，爱情不敌坚持泪。宿命天成命中败，仙尊悔，而我不悔。
Fang Yuan could see the intentions behind such an action. This was a small probing from the clan leader. His gaze swept through the arena. The entire clan's best-performing 3 groups were here. The clan leader's factions Qing Shu Group, Kai factions Kai Shan Group, and Mo factions Mo Yan Group. If it was a regular student, joining any of the 3 groups meant getting a huge backer, representing a bright future. But to Fang Yuan, it was the reverse. In the clan's higher-ups' perception, he was already part of a mysterious faction. Joining any of the 3 spelt trouble. For example, if he joined the Kai Shan faction, the Kai family obviously know they did not recruit him, so their first thought would be, Fang Yuan is a pawn of another family, but now that he's joining our group, what intentions does he have? Next they would think, the mysterious faction that recruited Fang Yuan earlier had already broken the rules, and now that Fang Yuan is present here, the clan leader would think that we were the ones who recruited him. So isn't this carrying the fault for them? That will not do. We have to arrest Fang Yuan, keep a close eye on him, and investigate him. We shall find concrete evidence and reveal the mysterious backer of his. But the truth was, Fang Yuan has no backer. Once I join any of the 3 groups, it means I am offending one out of the 3 biggest factions in this clan. That will definitely not do. Sai, I originally wanted to keep a low profile and join Jiang He's group, but Jiang He's group is backed by the Punishment Hall Elder. Under everyone's watchful eye, if I join abruptly, that is inappropriate as well. Fang Yuan inevitably hesitated. Gu Yuebao's smile became even more intense, continuing, Fang Yuan, if you don't choose, I'll select for you. The clan elders beside him watched quietly with an unmoving expression, each of them standing like statues. HMPH, forcing me. Fang Yuan's gaze shone, immediately guessing Gu Yuebao's next words, either throwing him to Kai Shan's group or Mo Yan's group. Gu Yuebao knew in his heart that he did not recruit Fang Yuan. To him, this act can not only remove suspicion on him but also weaken his foe, as well as reveal the mysterious faction. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. It was a play that could divert the problem away. Although seemingly simple, it was a strategic move showing Gu Yuebao's experienced political ability. No, I must not let him dictate it. It seems I can only choose a crappy group. Fang Yuan was about to open his mouth and speak. Suddenly at this moment someone spoke, "Why don't you join our team? Our group is lacking an attacker." Who said that? At once, everyone turned around towards the source of the voice. The person speaking was neither tall or short, with dark yellow skin that made him look sickly. A pair of triangular eyes shone with brilliance. It's the sickly snake Gu Yuejiao San. Someone pointed out his identity. Gu Yuejiao San, it's just a trash team with no background. The clan leader and clan elders all showed a disappointed expression. Jiao San, Fang Yuan's eyes shone with an undetectable dark shine. He and this Yue Jiao San person had never met or spoken before, and he had no memories of such a person. Why did Jiao San open his mouth and invite him into his team? Was it purely because he had gotten first place in the examination? How can that be? Only someone as childish as Fang Jing would have such a naive thought. But since Jiao San opened his mouth and invited Fang Yuan personally, such a situation was a good breakthrough point. The clan's higher-ups must be very disappointed now. He. Fang Yuan smiled thinking of this, his eyes looking downwards, hiding the brilliance in his expression. Then I'll join your group, Fang Yuan agreed on the spot, blocking Gu Yuebao's upcoming words. Is this Fang Yuan retarded? Ignoring those top-performing groups, and joining the sickly snakes group. He must be bonkers, Jiao San's personality, hehe. The students and Gu masters started to discuss, looking at Fang Yuan like he was a fool. The clan leaders and elders' expression turned dim. Today's probing was thwarted by this Gu Yue Jiao San. No, maybe this Jiao San is also a pawn in this game, but no matter what, they must investigate on this Yue Jiao San. 3 days later. It had already been snowing for a day, and now that it was gradually getting smaller, pieces of snowflakes flew in the air gliding with the wind. On Qingmao Mountain, there was a layer of white color over it. Many branches were naked with no leaves, except the evergreen pine trees and Qingmao bamboo, which had retained their original colors standing proudly in the snow. A group of 5 people ran in the snow. The leading person was neither short nor tall, bearing a sickly yellow skin. It was Gu Yue Jiao San. As he ran, he turned towards the quiet Fang Yuan, smiling gently with kindness. Fang Yuan, don't be nervous. Although this is your first clan mission, the contents are simple. Just follow us and learn along the way. Yes, Fang Yuan lightly replied, staring forward with a solemn expression. It was already winter. Running on the snow, the chilly winter winds were even more intense. Every breath was like eating snow dust, chilling his entire chest. Fang Yuan's face was originally very white, and now that the snow shone on it, it appeared even paler. In the process of running, the snow kept falling on his short black hair, his shoulders and forehead. What was different than before was that Fang Yuan had changed his clothes. This was a dark blue-colored battle attire. The attire had long sleeves and long pants, with bamboo sheets tied on his legs as wrappings, and bamboo shoes adorned his feet. On his head there was a bright blue headband, and the headband fluttered in the air as Fang Yuan ran. On his waist there was a loose belt. The belt was navy blue with a bronze plate on it, carved with the number 1. It was very much eye-striking. This was a Gu master's attire, showing Fang Yuan's status as a rank 1 Gu master. The youngsters had to stay a year in the academy and graduate before they were allowed to wear this. This attire had much meaning. Once worn, it meant that one has transcended the realm of mortals, leaving the lowly life and stepping into the upper society, being the middle class of the entire human race. Even if rank 1 Gu masters were the bottom of this tier, from now on any mortal had to give way to Fang Yuan and pay respects to him. Gu Yue Jiao San's gaze continued to shine. This battle attire, when worn by Fang Yuan, coupled with his cold expression, showed the atmosphere of a cool and collected person. While running, he continued asking Fang Yuan, "We are out on a mission, and normally we would have to rush when traveling, so running is a common thing. Are you used to it?" "I can cope." Fang Yuan's words were precious like gold, using the corner of his eye to look at Gu Yue Jiao San. Jiao San's warm and kind expression caused him to think about the legend of Ren Zhu. Words have it that Ren Zhu used the rules and regulation Gu and obtained strength but lost wisdom, leaving behind 3 Gu worms. One was suspicion, one was trust, and another was attitude. Ren Zhu grabbed the attitude Gu. Attitude Gu followed the betting rules, submitting to Ren Zhu, telling him, "Human, you caught me. I can only curse my bad luck. From now on, I will be at your command, where me and you will be able to use my ability." Attitude Gu's appearance was like a mask. Ren Zhu put it on his face, but in the end he could not wear it. Even if he used a rope to tie it, it would still fall off. "What's going on?" Ren Zhu was troubled. Attitude Gu laughed. "I know, human, you have no heart. Attitude is the mask of the heart, so without a heart, how can you wear me?" Ren Zhu realized at once. He had already given his heart to hope. He was heartless. Someone who is heartless cannot wear the attitude mask. In other words, to someone with a heart and intention, their attitude is a mask. This kind and warm attitude is only Gu Yue Jiaosan's mask. What is his real intention? Fang Yuan pondered. While the person's sickly snake, Jiao San observed Fang Yuan was also secretly observing him. On the snow, 5 small groups were running. Gu Yue Jiao San looked at the sky, saying, "The sky's getting dark. Our mission this time is to collect permafrost-decayed soil. Although it is easy, it consumes too much time. We have to speed up. Everyone follow me. Try not to get left behind. Fang Yuan, if you are unable to keep up, just inform us. Don't worry, you are a newcomer. We will take care of you." Gu Yue Jiaosan smiled very amicably. Fang Yuan nodded silently. The other 3 members exchanged glances. The sky was actually still bright. Jiao San had no need to say this. In reality, he wanted to give Fang Yuan an initial display of authority. The 3 knew this deep down, but did not expose him. In actuality, these kind of authoritative displays were common. When a new member joins, the older members would usually exert their authority to get rid of the younger members' arrogance, so that it would be easier to command and control them. "Let's go," Jiao San said lightly, taking huge steps and being the first to rush out. Fang Yuan's gaze shone, heading out with the same speed as the other 3, following closely behind. The bamboo shoes stepped on the snow, leaving behind traces of footprints. The mountain road was full of obstacles, being difficult to maneuver. Especially with a layer of thick snow, it was even easier to fall down. At the same time, due to the snow cover, who knew if underneath it was sharp rocks or pitfalls? If one stepped into a hunter's trap, they would be even more unlucky. Living in this world was tough. Traveling seemed easy, but in fact it had much to do with experience. Many newcomers suffered due to this. Only through a long period of training, having gone through much hardship, a Gu master that has accumulated much experience would be able to avoid these obstacles. The chilly winter winds blew directly towards their faces as Fang Yuan strode through the snow. At times he took small leaps, at times he ran long distances. Sometimes he sidestepped, sometimes he climbed, following closely behind Jiao San. The entire Qingmao was covered by a layer of snow coat, and many of the trees had naked branches, without a single leaf. At times, squirrels or wild deer were frightened by these people and ran away quickly. 30 minutes later, Jiao San stopped in his tracks as he had reached his destination. He turned over his head, looking at Fang Yuan, smiling and praising. "Good job. You truly are this year's champion, following behind me and not losing your pace once." Fang Yuan smiled silently. This kind of authoritative display, he was clear of it. In fact, sprinting in the snow had become a traditional event. Many small groups used this to suppress the newcomer's arrogance. The 2 stood on the spot and waited until the remaining 3 members arrived. Puff, huff, puff. They took deep breaths, their foreheads full of sweat, their faces red as they placed their hands on their weights, the last members plopping on the ground. Jiao San harshly stared at them, barking, "Stand straight. Haven't you embarrassed us enough? Look at Fang Yuan, then look at yourselves. HMPH, after this mission, go back and reflect on yourselves." The 3 immediately stood up straight, but lowered their heads. They were chided by Jiao San until they did not dare to raise their heads or rebuke him. Only their gaze towards Fang Yuan changed. How strange, how can this Fang Yuan be so experienced? I did not see him fall even once. Sai, we only have normal strength. How can we compete with this monster? HMPH, not only did we not get a show to watch, we even became the sacrificial lambs. This guy. Enough, buck up. Jiao San pointed forward. This small-sized valley is our destination. Inside there are large amounts of permafrost decayed soil for us to collect. Let's split up here and harvest the frozen earth. An hour later we will gather here. Kong Jiang, distribute the tools. Jiao San had just spoken, and the male member called Gu Yue Kong Jiang stood up. He opened his palm wide, and a yellow light shot out from the aperture in his abdomen, landing on his palm. The yellow light dispersed, showing its true form, a frog with a golden back. This golden frog was plump with a giant snow-white belly, causing its entire body to look like a ball when inflated. The frog's mouth and eyes were all at the top of its head due to this belly, being squeezed into a spot. Fang Yuan's gaze shone, recognizing this goo worm. This was the rank 2 goo worm, large belly frog. Soon after, Kong Jiang's hands emitted traces of red steel primeval essence and were absorbed by the frog. Ribbit! The large belly frog screeched, opening its mouth to vomit out a steel spade. The steel spade flew in the sky, turning large quickly. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the ground, becoming a large steel spade half the size of a person. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit! It called for several times, throwing up a tool each time. Eventually, the snowfield in front of everyone had 5 steel spades and 5 wooden boxes. The wooden boxes all had 2 ropes for carrying. Goo Master feeding goo worms was a large burden. Thus, goo worms were limited in numbers. During the initial stages, it was hard to single-handedly deal with different environments, and with different intensity of troubles, goo masters thus often worked in groups. In a small group, there was someone doing reconnaissance, someone for offense, someone in charge of defense, someone healing, and someone as logistics support. The goo master who stood up, Kong Jiang, was a logistics support goo master. He controlled this large belly frog, which was a support goo worm, where its belly had another space that could be used as storage space. Of course, every goo had its strengths and weaknesses. The large belly frog's weakness was that not only was the storage space limited, every time it vomited an item, it had to croak once, and this was irritating. Especially when a goo master is hiding in the battlefield. If handled poorly, it would reveal one's location. Another thing was, the large belly frog could not store goo worms, and it was not immune to poison, unable to store poisonous objects. After distributing the tools, each of the group members had a steel spade and a box in their hands. "Let's set off," Jiao San waved his hand, leading the party into the valley. Fang Yuan held the steel spade and carried the wooden box, choosing another direction. He is after all a newbie, rushing in like that, hee. Is the permafrost decayed soil so easy to harvest? If he cannot differentiate it, he might get normal frozen earth, wasting his efforts. The truth is, it is really difficult to differentiate. The permafrost decayed soil's color is around the same as normal frozen earth, especially under the cover of all the accumulated snow, so newbies can only dig relying on their luck. The 3 members seeing Fang Yuan's backview laughed internally. An hour later, they saw that Fang Yuan returned with an entire box of permafrost decayed soil, and were all stunned. Including Jiao San, all their wooden boxes were only half filled with permafrost decayed soil. Seeing Fang Yuan's wooden box, they were almost ashamed to show their results. "It is all permafrost decayed soil," a member observed carefully and was even more shocked. "Fang Yuan, how did you gather so much frozen earth?" a female member could not hold in her curiosity and asked. Fang Yuan's brows raised, and the snowlight shone on his iris, showing a clear and transparent gaze. He laughed lightly. The Academy elder said before, the permafrost decayed soil is a fertilizer created when the snow freezes the swamp. It has a tint of purple in the blackness, and is actually very smelly, but because it is frozen by the snow, it cannot be smelled. It is the smelly fart fatworm's food. At the same time, it is also very fertile, often mixed in the soil to grow crops, fruits, and vegetables. The clan sending out this mission is probably because they want to use it in the underground cave and fertilize the moon orchid flowers. His words caused the four to be frozen on the spot. These theories are obviously learnt in the academy, but theory and reality are very difficult to be linked. Has Fang Yuan collected permafrost-decayed soil before? The three members looked at each other in shock. Gu Yue Jiaosan's gaze shone, saying, "Good job, Fang Yuan." As he praised, his usual warm and kind smile became a little forced. Jiao San turned around, saying to the rest, "This way, our mission is completed. Everyone pass your spades and boxes to Kong Jiang and let's return." When they got back to the village, it was already afternoon. The five walked out of the Internal Affairs Hall, Jiao San distributing the 6 primeval stones they earned. He got 2 pieces, while the rest of the members got 1. The primeval stones were so easily earned, so the members all broke into a smile. Fang Yuan kept his primeval stone stealthily. Only in his heart did he think, when a newcomer joins a small group, the clan would usually give a large reward for the mission as a form of supporting the newcomer. Collecting the permafrost-decayed soil mission, the reward was at most 2 primeval stones, but because of me there were 3 times more. According to logic, I should have gotten more stones. If the snow sprinting was an authoritative display, then having us purposely collect the frozen soil alone was a sign of picking on me, and the distribution of primeval stones is suppression already. 1 or 2 primeval was not a concern for Fang Yuan. He was only wondering strangely. He and Gu Yue Jiao San never had any interactions, so why was he suppressing him? Unless, an inspiration struck Fang Yuan, the 5 stood on the walkway. Gu Yue Jiao San laughed kindly and said to Fang Yuan, "Little brother Fang Yuan, your performance really impressed all of us. It seems we did a correct thing inviting you to join us. You have just graduated from the academy and might be unclear of some things. Let me introduce you to them. Firstly, the clan missions. Each Gu master must complete at least 1 a month. The more you complete and the more perfect it is, the higher your evaluation. Secondly, the missions are distributed by the Internal Affairs Hall or the External Affair Hall. Each Gu master can only accept 1. Once accepted, they must complete it. Thirdly, under special conditions, a Gu master may choose to abandon a mission, but that will cause their evaluation to fall greatly. At the same time, rank 1 Gu masters have no rights to give up, and only rank 2 Gu masters do. But they can only abandon 1 mission a year. Fourth, the clan's evaluation is very important. It concerns your future in the clan, and the higher your evaluation, the greater your future and the brighter it is. Fang Yuan listened, nodding. These things were already memorized by him. Gu Yue Jiao San was right and did not misdirect him, but many key contents were not spoken. All right, the permafrost decayed soils mission has just been completed. Next, I accepted a wild deer hunting mission. The danger is low, so it is suitable for you to practice, Jiao San said to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan laughed coldly in his heart but said, "Thank you for your concern, group leader." Gu Yue Kong Jiang immediately followed up. "Little brother Fang Yuan, you should really properly thank the group leader. Although simple missions are easily completed, they have a small reward. The group leader's actions are to take care of you." The other 2 female Gu masters also spoke. Yeah, little brother Fang Yuan, action speaks louder than words. Why don't you thank the group leader by treating him to lunch? Little brother Fang Yuan, you just left the academy. Society is complicated. Human relationship is very important. If you don't know anything, just ask us during lunch. Gu Yue Jiao San laughed, purposely waving his hand. Don't put him in a spot. He just left the academy. He must be tight on primeval stones. How can that be? Besides, just being the first place in the year-end exam gave him 100 primeval stones as reward, right? A female Gu master purposely said, and then showed an expression of envy. I'm really envious of you. 100 primeval stones is a huge sum even to us. Group leader, you've mistaken our little brother Fang Yuan. How can he be so stingy? Am I right, little brother Fang Yuan? Gu Yue Kong Jiang laughed heartily, as if he was very happy. Another female Gu master got nearer to Fang Yuan, as if they had a close relationship, saying, "Little brother Fang Yuan, a word of advice. You can choose not to suck up to us, but the group leader you have to. You know our group's evaluation has a portion written by the group leader. If he says you're outstanding, you're outstanding. If he says you performed badly, it means you really performed badly." That's right, that's right. Evaluation is very important to us Gu masters. We need at least an outstanding evaluation to be noticed by the higher-ups. In the future, where we have sufficient achievements, we would be able to work for several years less. Kong Jiang immediately followed up. Throughout the entire process, Gu Yue Jiaosan was smiling and watching. Finally, he waved his hand with a kind expression and laughingly said, "Ah, don't speak nonsense. I am always impartial when writing my evaluation and will not be easily bribed by you. But don't worry, Fang Yuan, you are a newcomer, so now that you're in our group, I will take good care of your evaluation." If it were a normal teenager, they would have been led by the nose by these few people, feeling touched secretly. They are bullying a newcomer's ignorance and naivety. But Fang Yuan's iris was calm as the sea. Group leader being involved in the members' evaluation, that was the truth. This is the clan system, giving the authority to the group leader, so that they can manage each small group. But it is not as severe as these people said. For the clan evaluation, the group leader's evaluation is only a very small portion, and it is still mostly attributed to the clan's internal affairs hall. Or rather, even if the group leader had a great influence on it, so what? Fang Yuan didn't give a damn about the evaluation. He had already decided, quickly raise his cultivation, reach rank 3, and then leave this place. He had never thought of staying in this clan for over 100 years to slog his life away. To these ignorant and lowly peasants, the evaluation was the most important thing. But to Fang Yuan, it was lower than dog shit. Thus, their somewhat threatening tone was of no use to Fang Yuan. "I understand what you all have said. I still have something on, so I'll take my leave," Fang Yuan, after being quiet for a while, said. "Lei." At once, the four Gu masters showed a shocked expression. "What is the meaning of this? Did you not hear what we said earlier?" A female Gu master stared with her eyes wide, screaming in her heart. "Is your comprehension ability really okay?" Gu Yue Kong Jiang at this moment really wanted to grab Fang Yuan by the collar and ask him. Jiao San's mouth twitched. Fang Yuan's indifference caused their self-directed performance to look like a joke. It made the scheme that they set up become a laughingstock. Seeing Fang Yuan turning around and walking away, the fury in his heart blazed on. "Come on, Fang Yuan, don't leave so quickly, don't listen to their nonsense." Jiao San controlled his temper and conjured a smile, quickly chasing up and blocking Fang Yuan. "You're going to rent a house, right? Let us go with you. I have some personal relations. I am more familiar with the rental situation." "I am indeed going to rent a house. I can't stay at the hostel anymore. Do you have any ideas?" Fang Yuan raised his eyebrows, asking calmly. "I know a few houses that are considerably cheap and with good location." Jiao San smiled, leading the way. "There. My house, 15 primeval stones a month, no second price. Renting my house with 8 primeval stones, in your dreams. You must pay a deposit, 25% deposit. Other vendors are doing this too. My house has good feng shui and it's quiet at night. More importantly, it is facing the clan leader's pavilion. You know how good the location is. It is really cheap, only 25 primeval stones a month." All the way until night time, Fang Yuan did not find a house to stay. "Little brother Fang Yuan, you're too stingy. The village is only so big, the prices are all like this. In my opinion, you should get the house near the clan leader's pavilion. The second floor is very spacious and the scenery is nice. Little brother Fang Yuan, don't be so thrifty. It is only 25 primeval stones. The reward that you got is enough for you to stay 4 months. The two female Gu masters continued to urge him on with ill intent. Fang Yuan shook his head. I do not have many primeval stones, I cannot be wasteful. Then rent an underground apartment, it's cheaper. Gu Yue Kong Jiang's eyes shone with cold brilliance, suggesting. Fang Yuan snorted in his heart. This Kong Jiang has such a vile heart. The village is already high in precipitation, and now that it is winter, the underground apartments would have poor airflow, and tenants would easily catch a cold. Even if there aren't diseases, it would cause problems in the long term. Seeing that Fang Yuan kept his silence, Jiao San said, actually, the big hall's first floor is good too. Co-staying with other people causes the rent to reduce as well. Fang Yuan shook his head. I want to stay alone, I do not like to stay with others. Gu Yue Kong Jiang snorted, saying unhappily, you don't want this, you don't want that. I'm not trying to scold you, little brother Fang Yuan, but you're too picky and expect too much. With such high standards, it is not realistic. Fang Yuan listened, laughing coldly in his heart while thinking, even if they fulfill the criteria, I would not accept any house you recommend. His act of pacifying them was just for the sake of being careful, finding out if there are any traps. Just as Fang Yuan was about to leave, Mother Shen appeared. Young Master Fang Yuan, I finally found you. The academy can no longer be stayed at, and the old master and his wife have already prepared a banquet, specifically asking me to invite you home. Staying at home is so much better, there is no need for you to go about renting houses outside, she urged. Finally here. Fang Yuan laughed coldly in his heart. This Mother Shen really found a good time. Finding him here at once, someone must have notified her. Just as he had expected, the masterminds were his uncle and aunt. And Jiao San was the chain that his uncle and aunt created to bind him. Fang Yuan's silence looked like hesitation. Fang Yuan, why don't you stay at your uncle and aunt's house? Why make life difficult? Renting a house will spend a lot of primeval stones. Gu Yue Jiao San spoke in a concerned manner at an appropriate juncture as he looked at Fang Yuan, his eyes shining ominously. In the hall, the lights shone brightly. On the round dining table, the wine was already cold, and the dishes were cool. The brilliant red candle flickered and danced, projecting the shadows of aunt and uncle onto the wall. The two figures' shadow combined into one, and swayed gloomily with the candlelight. In front of them, Mother Shen was kneeling. Uncle broke the silence. To think this Fang Yuan is dead bent on going against me. Sai, I wanted to calm him down with nice words and keep him in the house first before finding a reason to chase him out of the house. To think that he did not fall for it. He has made up his mind, rejecting my invitation without a single way to negotiate, not even taking a step into my house. Aunt gritted her teeth, her expression slightly flustered. This scoundrel is already 16 years old, so if he wants the family fortune now, we cannot deny it to him. Years ago, we obtained that family fortune, and it was clearly recorded in the Inner Affairs Hall. Now that we cannot deny it, what shall we do now? Leave first. Uncle waved at Mother Shen to withdraw, laughing coldly. Don't be anxious. Throughout the year, I have already been planning for this. First, to get back the assets, he needs to have rank 1 middle stage cultivation. He already achieved this and is even at peak stage and got number 1 in the exam. That is very impressive. He. But to successfully obtain his family fortune, it is not so easy. Rank 1 middle stage cultivation is only a precondition. To split the assets, Fang Yuan has to apply for it, and the Internal Affairs Hall has to approve it and send him a mission to test if he has the qualifications. This is to prevent the clan from splitting family assets nonsensically, causing internal strifes and weakening the clan. Ant was enlightened. This means that he has to complete the mission before he can get his parents' inheritance. That's right, Uncle laughed sinisterly, but the Internal Affairs Hall's missions are sent to groups. The Family Asset mission will be the same. If Fang Yuan wants to complete it, he would have to rely on the group. He cannot do it alone. The family does this to make sure that the small groups stay united and increase their cohesiveness. Aunt laughed loudly. Husband, you're too smart. Getting Jiao San to recruit Fang Yuan this way, if Fang Yuan wants to accomplish the mission, he would need their strength. But Jiao San is on our side, so Fang Yuan can never accomplish this mission. Uncle's eyes shone smugly. HMPH. Even if he cannot get him into the group, I have other ways to deal with him. Not to mention completing the mission. Even if he wants to apply for the splitting of the fortune and receive the mission, it might not be possible. Nightfall arrived and the snow stopped. Fang Yuan walked on the streets. The bamboo houses along the way were all covered by a layer of white snow. The snow that he stepped on emitted a light sound. The cold air entered his respiratory system, causing Fang Yuan's brain to be extremely awake. After rejecting Mother Shen, Fang Yuan disregarded Jiao San and the group's advice and said goodbye to everyone, leaving by himself. So that's it. He walked and thought, Uncle and Aunt are trying to trap and delay me, causing me to lose the chance to take back my inheritance. After the new year, I would be 16 years old and be qualified to split the assets. My parents are dead and my brother has new parents. If I am successful, the entire inheritance is mine. But to take back the inheritance, there are two crucial steps, each being extremely important. The first is to apply for the mission at the Internal Affairs Hall without any other missions at hand. The second is to complete the mission to earn the rights to inherit the asset. Jiao San is in cahoots with Uncle and Aunt. Leaving aside the second step, he's already trying to trap me at the first step. The clan rules state that Gu Masters can only be on one mission at a time. This is to prevent Gu Masters from hogging and causing negative competition in the clan. Jiao San received missions consecutively. After finishing the permafrost decayed soil mission, he immediately accepted a new mission for catching wild deer. The clan's missions were all given to groups. That is to say, according to clan rules, Fang Yuan has to finish the deer capturing mission before applying for his asset-splitting mission. But at that point, I believe Jiao San would just accept another new mission. As the leader when accepting missions, he will always be a step ahead of me, causing me to be unable to accept my mission, thus always stopping me. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan's eyes shone ominously. These plots and schemes were irritating, like an invisible rope blocking Fang Yuan's progress. But Fang Yuan did not regret entering this group. At the arena, he was backed into a corner. Jiao San's invitation became a way for him to be free from the predicament. If he did not enter the team, his uncle and aunt would have other ways to deal with him. This cannot be prevented and will be hard to defend against. But now that he is in the group, he can clearly see their schemes and easily counterattack. Solving this problem, I have my ways. The easiest way is to just eliminate Jiao San or assassinate uncle and aunt. Then no one would compete with me over the family assets. But this way is too risky. They are all rank 2 Gu Masters and my cultivation is still too low. Even if I kill them, I cannot get out of the troublesome aftermath, unless there is a good chance for me to take advantage of. But these chances are usually by luck. Fang Yuan could kill the servant Gao Wan and could kill old man Wang, but that was because they were mortals and servants, with life cheap as grass. Killing them was akin to killing a dog or pulling off weed. It was insignificant. But assassinating Gu Masters is very troublesome. Gu Masters were all Gu Yue clansmen. No matter which one dies, the punishment hall would investigate. Fang Yuan evaluated his own strength and knew there was too much risk in killing them now. He might even get killed. Even if he kills them, the punishment hall's investigation is even more troublesome. His future actions would be spied on, and they might even find out the flower wine monk's inheritance. Attracting a much larger problem when eliminating a small problem, that is not what a wise person does. "Oh, I'm here," Fang Yuan spoke lightly, stopping at a worn-out bamboo building. This bamboo building was torn and worn out, like an old man about to die, panting for his last breath in the cold, harsh winter. Seeing this bamboo building, Fang Yuan's face showed a trace of reminiscence. This was the room he rented in his previous life. In his previous life, after being thrown out by his uncle and aunt, he had less than 15 primeval stones left and had to sleep in the streets for a few days before finding this place. This place was too worn out and had much lower rent than other places. In addition, while other places counted the rent by months, this place calculated it by days. I do not know about other places, whether or not they have uncle and aunt's traps, but my previous life's memories tell me that at least this place is safe. Fang Yuan rang on the door. After half an hour, he established the renting terms and was brought to the second floor by the owner. The floors were old, emitting dangerous and concerning sounds when stepped on. The room had only one bed and a blanket. The blanket had many patches but was still riddled with some holes, and the yellow cotton wadding leaked out from inside. The head of the bed had an oil lamp. The landlord left after lighting the lamp. Fang Yuan did not sleep, but sat on the bed and started cultivating. As his primeval sea raged on in the aperture, every drop of primeval essence was black-green. The aperture's four walls were a white crystal color, in a translucent state. Rank 1 peak stage. Suddenly, the green-bronze primeval sea started to have currents, like wild beasts raging and suiciding towards the four aperture walls. Bam, bam, bam. The huge waves crashed onto the aperture walls, causing the little ripples to break into small droplets before dissipating. After a while, the 44% primeval essence sea was quickly expended, with large amounts of primeval essence used up. On the sturdy aperture walls, there was lines of cracks. But just cracks were not enough. Fang Yuan wanted to break through rank 1 peak stage and reach rank 2. Thus he needed to break this aperture wall completely, evolving through its destruction. Black-green primeval essence continued to attack the crystal wall, and the cracks increased, forming a giant piece. At some places, the cracks were even deeper, forming very evident lines. As he used up the primeval essence, he did not continue to use primeval essence to attack, and the crystal walls started to heal, causing the cracks to vanish. Fang Yuan was not surprised, collecting his spirits and opening his eyes. The oil lamp had gone out already. There was not much oil anyway. The room was dark, with only the window providing a little bit of light through the crack. The room had no fire pit and was not warm. Fang Yuan had sat on the bed for a long time without moving and felt that the chilliness had intensified. His dark iris fused with the darkness. To break through Jiao San's lock, there is an easier and safer method. That is to advance to rank 2. Rank 1 Gu Masters have no right to give up on missions, but rank 2 Gu Masters can do it once a year. If I advance to rank 2, I can give up on my mission and apply for the asset splitting. But to break through to rank 2, it is not an easy task. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan sighed. Coming down from his bed, he strolled around in the tiny room. From initial stage to middle stage to upper stage, these are all small realms. From rank 1 peak stage to rank 2 initial stage, that is breaking through a large realm. Between these two cases there was an extremely different difficulty. Simply put, to break the crystal wall, it needed explosive strength, forming a strong impact in a short time to smash the wall. But Fang Yuan only had C-grade talent, and the primeval C is only at 44%. If he used his entire force to attack the wall, his primeval essence would be used up immediately. Just like earlier, after his primeval essence was exhausted, he would no longer have the strength to continue. And the wall had recovery ability, so before long it would heal up. Whatever Fang Yuan did earlier would have been wasted. Breaking the wall and reaching rank 2 without special situations, one needs 55% black-green primeval essence. But my talent is limited, having only 44%. Thus people say that talent is the key in a Gu master's cultivation. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan slowed in his steps. Unknowingly, he had moved to the window, thus he opened the windows casually. Every gust of wind shook the bamboo lattice window, and when opened the snow-covered mountain greets one's eye. Under the moonlight, the snow was like white jade, spreading out and letting the world resemble a crystal palace before one's eyes, untainted by dust. The snowlight shone onto Fang Yuan's youthful features. His expression was peaceful and calm, his brow smooth, his pair of orbs looking like the ancient spring underneath the moon. As the cold winds blew onto his face, the young man laughed. It is merely a small bit of wind frost. It was a night without sleep, and once day came, Fang Yuan stepped out of the room and started to purchase stuff wantonly. The room was poorly furnished and the blankets were torn. If he lived there for long, the chill would enter his body and cause him to get sick. Fang Yuan's primeval stones were already half used up, but he still had to purchase the necessary equipment. He could not scrimp on these things. Firstly was a blanket. He had to get a large blanket stuffed with cotton, or at least 2. He also needed bed sheets and a mattress. He needed another oil lamp so that it could illuminate the room, and he needed at least 2 pots of lamp oil. Thinking about it, although the room was small, it could still hold a table and a chair, thus he bought those as well. Most importantly, it was a stove. In the winter, if he did not have a stove to warm himself when sleeping in the room, he would still get shocked awake by the cold. Other than these, he also bought some dry rations and some water to last around 7 days' worth. The winter sun slowly rose, giving out languid rays of light. Gu Yue Jiao San and the other Gu masters stood at the north door of the village, waiting anxiously. Something's not right. Last night we agreed to meet at this time and place, but it has already been 15 minutes and this Fang Yuan still hasn't shown up, a female Gu master asked. Calm down and just wait. It is inevitable that a newcomer is late, Jiao Sao laughed. He had been fretting over not having any reasons to fault Fang Yuan with, but to think he faltered on the second day. Never mind that we are waiting. Even the group leader has to wait for him. This lad thinks too much of himself. Gu Yue Kongjiang complained, his tone indignant. Half an hour later, Fang Yuan was still nowhere to be found. Jiao San's face was darker than night. This scumbag, did he remember the wrong location? We said clearly that we are meeting at the northern door, Kong Jiang said suspiciously. I'll wait here, you guys go look around the different doors, Jiao San instructed, and the 3 obliged. 15 minutes later, they returned with no fruit. Did this Fang Yuan see through our ploy and left the group directly? A female Gu master asked. You think too highly of him. Even if he is the first place in the year-end exam, he is still a young newbie. His age is apparent, Kong Jiang said. Ao San's face was grim. It is secondary to whether he has seen through us. The crucial thing is to find him now. I'm afraid that he has left us behind and is trying to break through to rank 2 on his own. Once he reaches rank 2, he can abandon this mission and apply for the splitting of assets from the Internal Affairs Hall. Find him, go and find him. The village is only so big and there are only that many rental houses. We must find him and not give him the time to break through to rank 2. Yes, Ali. In the room, Fang Yuan sat on the bed. In front of him were a few money bags, and inside them was all primeval stones. Not enough primeval stones, Fang Yuan sighed, his expression grim. Primeval stones are the driving force behind a goo master's advancement, and if they are lacking, the goo masters would need to rely on their own recovery speed for primeval essence, which would greatly reduce their cultivation speed. At the same time, without sufficient food, the goo worms would die of hunger. Fang Yuan's primeval stones. During his time at the academy, it had reached the peak of being slightly above 1,000, but it could not stand up to the expenditure over time. A same stage goo master up till now only has 3 goo worms. But Fang Yuan, after getting number 1 in the year-end exam, entered the goo hall and chose another little light goo for free. He must choose, for if he gave up it would invite suspicion. Like this, he had 7 goo worms on hand. Undeniably, this was a huge financial burden. If this continues, I can only hold out for 2 months. I must get back my family assets, that is the greatest financial support. But to get them back, the first step is to advance to rank 2. Fang Yuan's gaze was dark. To Fang Yuan, advancing to rank 2 was not easy. For a goo master's cultivation, first was resources, second was talent. Without talent, the path of cultivation would be difficult, and their accomplishments in the future would be lower. Talent is split according to D, C, B, and a grade. But this is only a rough distribution. In fact, every grade has another specific differentiation. Taking a C grade, for example, the primeval essence storage in the aperture would be around 40–59%. Fang Yuan's primeval essence was 44%, so in the C grade range, he was only middle-lower class. Rushing to rank 2, he needed at least 55% black-green primeval essence. To an A and B grade goo master, this was not difficult, and to the 55–59% C grade goo masters, they could pass as well. Thus, for C grade goo masters, once they reach a certain accumulation, most of them would advance to rank 2. Only very few can attain rank 3. Thus, the talent could determine most people's achievements in their lives. Fang Yuan being given the cold shoulder, he could not blame the people for being biased. Although my C grade talent is only 44%, if I want to break the wall and reach a new height, attaining rank 2, it is still not impossible. The easiest way is to find a talent-raising goo worm. Secondary, I can get a support-type goo like the liquor worm, and that can help to break the barrier as well. Lastly, I can attain the help of a higher-ranking goo master, but using external primeval essence has a huge backlash, unless I can get the cleansing goo in future to eliminate the external presence. Fang Yuan thought about it while using both hands to take out a primeval stone, using his fingers to rub the smooth surface of the stone. But the above methods are not recommended for me. I do not have any friendly goo master to help, and even if I do, I will not let my aperture be at their mercy. Goo worms like the liquor worm are too rare. Even getting the liquor worm was my extreme luck. As for talent-raising goo worm, I got it in my previous life and attained rank 6 cultivation, and I also know where to find them, but I cannot go to those places now with my current cultivation. Even if I get them, I cannot keep them, or even use them. But other than these methods, there is a final most stupid method, using primeval stones to force it. Thinking so, Fang Yuan's eyes flashed as he gripped the primeval stone tightly. Goo master cultivation, first was resources, second was talent. Without sufficient talent, one can compensate using resources to a degree. My primeval essence is only 44%. I do not have enough to break the aperture walls. But if I absorb primeval essence while attacking the walls, I can hold on much longer, and in about 4 to 5 days, I would be able to smash the walls. Making up his mind, Fang Yuan opened his eyes, his heart sinking into his aperture. Green copper primeval sea raged on, as the waves crashed into the aperture walls. But this time, to prevent his primeval essence from drying up and becoming insufficient to maintain the cracks and causing the aperture to recover, Fang Yuan purposely slowed the attacking speed. This way, the green-bronze primeval essence expenditure would be greatly reduced, but the crack formation would also slow down. Despite so, Fang Yuan continued to absorb the natural essence of the primeval stones. Primeval essence recovery has to be slightly above the crack recovery speed. This way, even if it is slow, showing less than 1% progress, there would be hope as time passes. The only thing about this method would be that other than eating and shitting, Fang Yuan had to cultivate non-stop. The more time he wasted, the more primeval stones would go down the drain and the more his hard work would squander. He could stop for a maximum of 15 minutes, and after that, if there isn't any primeval essence to continue attacking, the aperture would fully recover. Thus, once the attack began, he had to persevere until he succeeded and cannot be disturbed. Once he stopped for too long, he would have to restart the process. Fang Yuan did not have so many primeval stones on hand to do it multiple times. Time flies when cultivating, and in the blink of an eye, the sun set. Under the setting sun, Jiao San with a cold expression said, "After finding for a day, you still haven't found him." "No, group leader." Kong Jiang wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "That lad, he did not go to any of the houses we recommended. We have no idea where he is hiding." "HMPH, continue searching tomorrow, we have to find him. Remember to search the inn as well. I do not believe that we cannot find him. The village is only so big, no matter where he is hiding, there has to be a trace." Jiao San walked away in fury. Until the afternoon of the second day, their search finally bore fruit. A female Gu master walked to Jiao San excitedly, reporting, "Found him, found him. Fang Yuan is at a worn-out bamboo building and has rented the second floor. According to the owner's description, it should be him." HMPH, as I expected, he really hid himself and is trying to break through to rank 2. Jiao San laughed sinisterly. "Let's go and make ourselves guests in his room and show him some concern. He is a newcomer after all." Heh. The others also started smirking. The four immediately came to Fang Yuan's residence. There was a paper on the door. Jiao San took it down and read it. It was Fang Yuan's handwriting, saying that he needed to go into closed-door cultivation for a few days and will not leave, as he would be attempting to break through to rank 2. If others saw it, they should not disturb him. If Jiao San saw it, it was a request of absence application. Jiao San snorted, throwing the paper away. "How can I let you advance to rank 2 so successfully?" He laughed coldly, knocking on the door. "Knock, knock, knock. Little brother Fang Yuan, are you here?" he purposely said loudly. "We are here to see you. How could you not tell us about your closed-door cultivation, seriously?" There was no reply. "Knock, knock, knock." Jiao San knocked loudly. "Little brother Fang Yuan, it's not that I want to nag at you, but you are making decisions on your own. Now that you are our group member, you should listen to instructions and obey orders moving together. We have already accepted the wild deer hunting mission. This is specifically for you to train, so why don't you stop first and complete the mission with us, then cultivate." Jiao San's eyes squinted as he said in a gentle tone, although his expression was dark. There was still no reply. Jiao San suddenly raised his voice. "Little brother Fang Yuan, why are you not replying? Did something happen to you? It is not so easy breaking through to rank 2, you can ask us for experience. Fang Yuan, did you hear me? Oh no, could it be that you fainted?" Jiao San talked to himself, smirking coldly, but his voice was full of concern and anxiety. The other 3 members observed the show. Kong Jiang interrupted at an appropriate timing. "Leader, you might be right. Fang Yuan hasn't responded after so long. Let's go in and save him." Fang Yuan, quickly open the door. "We're really worried if you keep silent. If you don't open the door, we will break in. You are our newest member, we cannot let you be in danger," Jiao San shouted loudly. Still, there was no reply. Jiao San's mouth curled, indicating to Kong Jiang. Kong Jiang acknowledged and raised his foot. With a loud bam sound, the entire door was sent flying, crashing onto the bed. Hang in there, Fang Yuan, we're coming to help you, Jiao San shouted with a concerned expression, taking huge steps into the room. But the next moment, he was dumbfounded. The room was empty. Fang Yuan was not inside. The four became silent. How can this be? Where is he? Jiao Sao broke the silence, saying frustratingly. He performed outside the room for such a long time, but it turned out to be a one-man performance as Fang Yuan was never inside. The three looked at each other, not expecting such a result. This is weird. If Fang Yuan isn't here, why would he paste that paper on the door? Kong Jiang said carefully. Get the landlord here now. Jiao Sao raised his foot and sent the door flying. You looking for me? HMPH, I was just about to find you, coming to my house and raising a huge ruckus, even breaking down my door. Young man, you sure are capable. The landlord was an old man, but his tone was very firm. Being able to own additional houses in the Gu Yue village and renting it out, he was obviously a Gu master. A Gu master's strength and status supersedes a mortal. Mortals do not dare to operate such a business. In fact, they do not own property. The entire village's property is owned by the Gu Yue clan. The mortals who live here are the farmers and servants of the clan. Senior, we are here to find a young man. He is our group member. Facing the landlord, Jiao San controlled his temper. An old Gu master like the landlord, even if he is old and no longer striving for his career, he still has strong relationships and connections. Even if he is retired, his ability is still not to be underestimated. Those without human relationships and trump cards, how would they dare to do business? This is not a peaceful era. It is full of violence and plunder. The landlord shook his head, his tone rigid. I do not care about my tenant's whereabouts, but I do know that you broke my door. You need to compensate me. This is our fault. It is only right that we compensate you, Jiao Sao laughed dryly. Although he was furious inside, he still forced himself to compensate some primeval stones and even gave some extra. The landlord's expression turned slightly better. If the young man who rented this room is who you are finding, then I must tell you that he has not turned in for a day. After paying a month's rent, he bought a huge amount of things yesterday and asked me which place sold coal cheaply. I told him that there was no need to buy coal, as there is a valley outside the village towards the north. A mine is situated there where he can excavate the coal. After thanking me, he left and never returned. So that's it. Jiao San looked at the decorations in the room. Indeed, the mattress and bedding was new. The table and chairs were old goods bought by Fang Yuan that were seemingly firm. The stove was empty. It indeed did not have coal. Jiao San breathed out slowly, being at ease. It seems Fang Yuan was delayed by excavating coal. Never mind, let's come again tomorrow. He walked out of the room first. But on the third day, Fang Yuan still did not show up. Jiao San and the others stood outside the room, hesitant. Digging for coal, it does not need so much time. Fang Yuan wants to do closed-door cultivation, so maybe he dug more. But it's been so long, could something have happened to him while he was excavating? Kong Jiang conjured. Jiao San nodded unnauticably, pointing towards the bed and stove. This lad is very stingy. He paid a month's rent all of a sudden and even bought so many things, and especially pasting that paper on the wall, he probably wanted to cultivate here. Too bad he was unlucky. These days the wolf hordes have gotten bigger, and the wild beasts around the village have gotten more active. He might have encountered some wild beasts. Leader is wise, the two female Gu masters said at the same time, flattering him. Jiao San laughed while raising his head. Ha ha ha, I was still fretting over how to deal with him. Though we have that deer-catching mission, let's not rush out to do it. If we meet him in the wilds, we are forced to save him, right? Heh. The other 3 members started laughing. Day 4. In the aperture, waves of black-green primeval essence hit against the crystal walls relentlessly. The translucent white crystal wall was already full of cracks, crisscrossing each other. This is Fang Yuan's result after working hard non-stop for 3 days and 3 nights. At most, when he really could not take it anymore, he would quickly take a meal and settle his bowels. These days, Fang Yuan had purposely slowed the wave-crashing process, and at the same time he drew more primeval essence from his primeval stones. Thus, after such a long time, the green-copper primeval sea had only dropped from the 44% limit to around 20%. As time passed, when there was only about 13% primeval essence left, the wall could no longer hold up and had reached its limit. Crack. The originally sturdy crystal wall broke into pieces, and the fragments fell into the primeval sea, causing ripples and waves. After that, it turned into white dots and vanished into thin air. What replaced the crystal wall was a brand new white light wall. This was the rank 2 light wall. Although there was not much difference and it still emitted white light, it was much more glimmering than the rank 1 light wall. At the same time, traces of red primeval essence were produced in the sea, and it mixed around with the black-green primeval sea in the aperture. This was the rank 2, initial stage red steel primeval essence. Finally I did it, I broke through to rank 2. Fang Yuan opened his eyes abruptly, the room immediately brightening up. But a second later, a strong wave of nausea hit him. I went through 4 days and 3 nights of non-stop cultivating. It is too intense and my body is going to collapse soon. Fang Yuan laughed bitterly, slowly lying down. My cultivation was not disturbed at all. It seems that my setup at the rental house had worked. It was worth spending this sum. Next I shall rest well for the night and return to the village tomorrow. Thinking of this, intense sleepiness assaulted him. Fang Yuan forced his eyes to stay open and used his intense will to cover himself with the blanket. After closing his eyes, in a few seconds, he fell soundly asleep. The cultivation earlier had used up most of his spirit. He slept until the afternoon of the second day. Fang Yuan opened his eyes, feeling his spirit recovering to around half, but he was still feeling weakness in his body. He opened the door, walking out of the room for the first time in 5 days. This attracted a person. This person had slim, long eyes with a thin body. It was Jiang Ye's brother Jiang He. Seeing Fang Yuan, he exhaled in relief, saying, "You're finally out. HMPH, I would have broken into the room if you still did not come out after the next few days. After all, if you die here, I'd be held responsible." Fang Yuan laughed but did not say anything. The winter sunlight broke through the window, shining onto his face, amplifying the trace of pale white weakness on his features. 5 days ago, he purposely asked the landlord and gave Jiao San the clues of his coal story. After that, he left the Gu Yue village and went to the hamlet at the mountain foot. Because of old man Wang previously, Jiang He was half an alliance mate of his. Using this relationship, Fang Yuan stayed a few days in the village and advanced to rank 2 without any interruption. Of course, the rock-cracked secret cave was much more elusive than Jiang He's place, but it was not completely safe. Fang Yuan had to consider the possibility of Jiao San and the others relentlessly finding him, and might find the rock-cracked secret cave. Although chances were slim, if the flower wine monk's inheritance was found out, Fang Yuan's life would be in danger. Fang Yuan was a very cautious person, and he naturally would not take such risks. At the same time, it was safer at Jiang He's place. Even if they had a shared secret, Jiang He would not kill him to silence him. The risks and troubles of killing a Gu master was too great. Without sufficient benefits, Jiang He had no motivation to do it. In fact, To preserve the secret, Jiang He would even have to worry about Fang Yuan's safety. After all, if the clan's punishment hall investigates Fang Yuan's death, they might find out about Old Man Wang's secret. Seeing Fang Yuan safe, Jiang He was really relieved. But quickly, he felt the aura of Fang Yuan and his expression changed. To think that you really succeeded, reaching rank 2 in one go. He was shocked in his heart. 5 days ago, when Fang Yuan approached him and stated his intentions, he was actually feeling disdainful in his heart. Absorbing the primeval essence from the primeval stones and breaking through to rank 2, this kind of multitasking method was very draining on the spirit. Normally speaking, Gu masters needed a very strong will, patience, and years of cultivating experience. Only with the experience, a Gu master could treat the extraction of primeval essence from the stones as an instinct. At the same time, manipulating the primeval sea skillfully and causing the impact to be controlled at a degree, and it had to be perfectly calculated, just enough to match the recovery rate of the primeval essence so that the process could be sustained. In Jiang He's opinion, Fang Yuan had no chance of success, but to think he did it in one go. Fang Yuan laughed indifferently. I was lucky. I plan to return to the village today, but before that, it would be nice if I can have a meal. Heh, little brother Fang Yuan, since you're here, of course I'm taking care of your meals. Jiang He patted his chest, his attitude even more friendly than before. Although he did not think well of Fang Yuan's future, but now that he has advanced to rank 2, it meant that he had gone through a difficult hurdle and has the qualifications to be on par with him now. After a scrumptious meal, Jiang He brought Fang Yuan to the entrance of the small village personally. Little brother Fang Yuan, be careful this time. Recently, the wolf nest area has gotten slightly fiercer, causing the wild beasts to become more active. It is snowing. Jiang He paused, then continued, my opinion is don't go now. How about you stay here for another night? After Fang Yuan reached rank 2, he became really friendly. But Fang Yuan was insistent on leaving, thus saying goodbye to Jiang He. The snowflakes fell calmly, just like pure white fur that was floating down slowly. The light of the setting sun turned the snow into a golden yellow. Flake by flake, the snow drifted onto Fang Yuan's head and shoulders. In the far distance, the Gu Yue village stood upright over the mountain waste, watching over quietly. Run faster, don't fall behind. The clansmen in front are fighting a bloody battle. They are waiting for our backup. Follow closely, or you will easily lose your direction in the midst of battle at night. Newcomers better pay special attention. On the way back to the village, there would be a 5-man group from time to time running hurriedly past Fang Yuan's side. Did something happen? He had not walked for more than 500 meters when Fang Yuan saw the 13th group. He could not help but contemplate, but to be quite honest, with 500 years' worth of memories, it was just too superfluous and messy. Mentioning this, although Fang Yuan was reborn, he had never given up any of his old memories. Yet much of his memories were enshrouded in a layer of thick fog, and if he tried to retrieve them by force, he would only get lost in the fog, getting more losses than benefits. Only a few deep and powerful memories that were like sparkling and translucent pearls ran through his previous lives, 500 years, like a connected thread. It was evident that what was happening right now was in fact not in any of these pearls. The life of his in the Gu Yue village was just the beginning of the preceding period. It was just way too long ago. Besides, there's a possibility that this never happened in my previous life, but because of my change, a butterfly effect happened and caused changes to the surroundings. Just like that, he walked while pondering. Subconsciously, Fang Yuan reached the northern gate of the village. By chance, there was another group about to set off. On seeing Fang Yuan, only one person from this group stopped in his tracks. Fang Yuan, why are you still here? What's wrong? Fang Yuan raised his eyes and looked at this person. It was no other than his fellow schoolmate, Gu Yue Kai Cheng. Kai Cheng immediately frowned and said, "Oh geez, you still don't know yet. There's been a small-scale beast tide that formed near the village. If we let it be, it will slowly become a big-scale beast tide. When that happens, the villages at the foot of the mountain will be crushed. Without those lowly mortals and slaves, we'd also be in a difficult position sometimes." Oh, so it's like this, Fang Yuan's gaze flashed. Being reminded like this, he was able to remember that such a thing did happen in his memories. In this world, it was hard for humanity to survive. Every few years a beast tide would happen. Humans need resources and living space. This is no different from wild beasts and insects. They also needed such things. To explain the beast tide as a war between wild beasts and humanity, perhaps this will be easier to understand. Taking Qingmao Mountain, for example, every 3 years there would be a large-scale wolf tide that attacks each of the big mountain villages. According to my calculations, the real outburst of the wolf tide will happen next year. However, this small-scale beast tide is a subsidiary of that. The wolf group will continue growing stronger and bigger, and this will cause the other beast groups around the area to lose their living space. As this effect accumulates, when it reaches the maximum limit, it will cause the migration of beast groups. Migrating beast groups will naturally influence other beast groups. Under such an intertwined influence, there is a chance that the influence would be expanded and cause all sorts of beast groups to relocate, causing the beast tide to be formed from this matter. If this problem is not controlled in time, the tide would only get bigger. Although it is still unable to endanger the existence of the Gu Yue village, if we leave it alone, the village's power would be greatly reduced. Wait, if this is the case. Heh 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 heh. There was a sudden flash in his eyes, but Fang Yuan promptly cast his gaze down, hiding away the change in his eyes. Seeing that Fang Yuan had not said anything, Kai Cheng continued to speak. At the present time, the Internal Affairs Hall and External Affairs Hall have both already given out the order to mobilize. They proclaimed this as an urgent mission. Fang Yuan, don't you think of goofing off. Your group has already left in the morning, you must also go. But, as he spoke up to this point, Kai Cheng purposely dragged out his intonation. Danger lurks everywhere during a beast wave. All kinds of wild beasts roam about, and most of all a battle in the night is way more dangerous than the day. You're just a small little rank 1 Gu master, unlike a rank 2 like me, you should be careful. Heh heh heh. As he said this, he purposely held his head high and puffed his chest out, stroking his own belt, his expression joyfully satisfied and proud. His belt was no longer the green-colored rank 1 belt, but a rank 2 Gu master's red-colored belt. At the same time, on top of the metal plate on the belt, there was a 2 word. It was thanks to his grandfather Gu Yue Kai Lion's help that he ascended to rank 2 not long ago. I just heard about this news, but since this is the case, Fang Yuan suddenly smiled and said, "Then I'll follow you guys and set out together. Once on the front lines, I'll leave the team and return to mine." "What, who wants to bring you?" Kai Cheng folded his arms, his mouth twitching disdainfully. Fang Yuan's tone was distant. The clan rule states, Gu masters that are left behind must merge into the closest group to their location. They have an obligation to continue fighting. Kai Cheng, you don't even know this point. You, Kai Cheng glared, just about to flare up. Indeed, this is the case. Kai Shan, who had been watching quietly, finally spoke. His body stature was close to 2 meters tall, and his figure was powerful and strong. His upper body was bare, the muscles hard and tough like metal. His entire body was covered in fiery red skin that seemed to faintly emit hot air. Undoubtedly, he was the leader of this group. Seeing him speak, even Kai Cheng, who was the Kai faction's inheritor, kept his mouth shut. Kai Shan expressionlessly looked at Fang Yuan, continuing, Let us depart, you keep up. His voice was low and deep, his words short and simple. There was an aura of him that caused people to hardly question him. Fang Yuan shrugged nonchalantly, taking it as agreeing. Kai Cheng laughed coldly, his gaze harboring malicious intentions as he looked at Fang Yuan, speaking in an emphasized, peculiar tone. Then you had better keep up. Fang Yuan did not reply to him. HMPH, why do we have to drag him around? Just a rank 1 Gu master. Kai Cheng mumbled to himself angrily, but since he was hindered by Kai Shan's authority, he did not dare act impudent. At once, a group of 6 people set out from the entrance, following the mountain road and running down the slope. Gu Yue Kai Shan took the lead. He may be big-sized, but his speed was also not slow. Besides him and Kai Cheng, there were also 2 men and 1 female, their facial expressions indifferent. As they ran, Kai Shan's group started to display the graceful bearing of being one of the 3 strongest groups. Each of them had rhythmic breathing, their footsteps fast and easy. Only Kai Cheng seemed to be in a difficult situation, but he would use his scarlet pill cricket gu from time to time, catching up reluctantly. Yet it could also be seen that he had received good teaching, for although he often staggered along the way, at least he never fell down. When they reached the mountain foot, with one hand gesture from Kai Shan, the group swiftly stopped in their tracks. Huff huff. Kai Cheng had fallen behind by 300 meters, and he was the last to catch up. His face was pale and he panted heavily, his gaze inconceivable as he looked at Fang Yuan. During the journey, Fang Yuan had always been following tightly behind, and up till now his breathing was only slightly heavy. He did not look the least bit like a newcomer who just graduated. Kai Cheng, remember, regulate your physical strength. Kai Shan looked back and advised Kai Cheng. Then he swept his gaze past Fang Yuan, his eyes showing a hint of praise. The looks that the other few group members gave towards Fang Yuan had also softened a little. We will be nearing the beast tied down there. Kai Cheng and Fang Yuan come towards the middle of the team. Kai Shan looked at the pitch-black mountain forest before him as he spoke. This sentence let Fang Yuan reevaluate Kai Shan. This huge boulder of a man sure had tolerance. The middle of a group is often the safest spot. Although Fang Yuan was not a person of the Mo bloodline, Kai Shan still maintained the manner of protecting a newcomer. To compare him to the sickly snake Jiao San, the latter would immediately pale in comparison. The sky had already become completely dark, and the black clouds were in layers, causing the accumulated snow to also become dark and gloomy. Kai Shan's group had already changed their group formation. Their speed dropped greatly as they ran slowly through the complicated terrain of the mountain forest. Fang Yuan and Kai Cheng were in the middle part of the group, where on the left side was the huge Kai Shan, while the right side was an old man. Behind them was a young woman with a head of watery blue-colored long hair. And in front of them was a male Gu master called Kai Shi. He was the reconnaissance Gu master of this group, and he gave out hissing noises. From time to time, he would stick his tongue out into the air. Right now his tongue had a small divide in between, becoming the bright red forked tongue of a snake. As they entered deeper into the mountain forest, their surroundings started to show wild beasts violently running about wildly. Suddenly Kai Shi opened his mouth and spoke. Before us, 3 medium-sized animals have appeared, suspected to be wild deer. Drive it away. Kai Shan's expression was unchanging as he immediately gave the order. The 6-man group did not change their direction. They continued pursuing forward. 3 wild deer appeared before them, quickly changing their direction and dispersing. Not long after, Kai Shi's expression changed. A group of medium-sized creatures, suspected to be turtleback apes. Shift, Kai Shan said. The small group immediately broke to the left side, bypassing this group of troublesome apes. This was the benefit of having a reconnaissance goo master. He was able to anticipate and inform earlier, letting them make accurate decisions from it. Kaishi is probably using the snake tongue goo. This rank 2 goo worm can sense heat temperatures, but it has 3 very obvious flaws. Firstly, the perception radius is small. Secondly, it is easily interfered with. Thirdly, it cannot detect cold-blooded creatures. Yet no matter what, it is better than not having any detection. I have reached rank 2 now, and in future to survive in the wild I will also need a detection type of goo, Fang Yuan thought. Suddenly Kaishi urgently spoke. A middle-sized creature, suspected to be a white tiger. It's found us and is quickly approaching. Engage. Kaishang's tone was calm and collected. Roar. A fierce tiger jumped out from the thicket in front of them, and the group met it head-on. Without Kaishi's warning in advance, perhaps they would be caught unprepared. But right now, the group had long anticipated. Firstly, the old goo master on the right suddenly drummed up his cheeks, and then spit out a white-colored, viscous substance. The substance abruptly expanded in midair, becoming a huge spider net. It used its strong viscosity and trapped the white tiger full in the face. The white tiger struggled fiercely in the net, and Kai Shan immediately stepped forward and brandished his fist, pounding onto the tiger's head. His fist had a golden luster flashing through, and with a bang, the tiger's head was smashed into pieces. The white tiger died in one breath. The group did not stop to stay behind, but instead walked over the tiger's body and continued forward. Kaishi took Kai Shan's place again and ran in front, taking the lead. Through the entire process, it was like moving clouds and flowing water. All the group members displayed mutual understanding. That entire process did not take more than 3 seconds. If it was me right now who was taking on that tiger alone, I would need at least 5 minutes to contend with. Fang Yuan's gaze was flashing. These goo masters were also ranked 2 like him, but the main disparity was still goo worms. They all used rank 2 goo worms, and this enabled them to bring out the best in each other. However, all the goo in Fang Yuan's hands were still rank 1. Goo master, goo master. The word goo is before the word master, signifying that goo worms have a huge impact on a goo master's fighting power. Although I have advanced to rank 2, I still need to have rank 2 goo to be able to display the fighting power of a rank 2 goo master. However, right now, I do not have many primeval stones on me. I have used up a huge portion from breaking into rank 2. Refining 2 goo worms together will also use up a considerable amount of primeval stones. As Fang Yuan thought of this, Kaishi, who was in front of him, suddenly said, I found the sickly snakes group. Found the sickly snake group in front. They are currently contesting with a large-sized wild beast. Only half a second later, Kaishi said again, this time more specific. What's the situation? Kaishan frowned. There's no mistake. Kaishi's snake tongue continued to stretch and shrink. Jiao San's red lava python is the only one in the entire village, and now they are fighting against Wild Boar King. Everyone's expression changed. Wild Boar King. If I want to combine goo worms, I require the wild boar's tusks. Undoubtedly, the Wild Boar King's tusks are the most suitable. Fang Yuan's heart stirred, and in actuality he had the intention to kill the Wild Boar King from the start. That Wild Boar King, watery blue-hair female goo master raised her brows. Other than that one, there is no other in the vicinity, but relying on just the strength of the sickly snake group to reap the Wild Boar King, their appetite is too big. The old goo master sneered in disdain. If Old Man Wang could grasp the terrain of the mountain himself, these rank 2 goo masters who were always roaming around on Qing Mao Mountain would obviously be more familiar with it. Not eliminating the Wild Boar King before this, they had their reasons. Kaishan pondered, then said, go support them. I'm afraid they might not reciprocate. The old goo master laughed coldly. Even if we do not go and support them, we still have to send someone over, right? Kai Cheng looked at Fang Yuan, saying in an unhappy tone. The team's direction steered towards the left. Although Kai Shan and the rest always looked down and did not like Gu Yue Jiao San, but as clansmen towards outside foes, even if they had amnesty normally, they would group up and work together. This is the cohesiveness of a clan in this world. And especially relying on this cohesiveness, could a 100-year-old clan sustain itself without dying out, even becoming a 1,000-year-old clan? Everyone moved through the jungle in the darkness, heading towards a low-lying land. Sickly snake groups, 4 Gu masters were surrounding the wild boar king, engaging in fierce combat. In the center, the elephant-like wild boar king was fighting with a thin and long red-colored python. This red giant python had dark red rock pieces all over its body, the temperature very high. It was like a thick chain coiling around the wild boar king. The wild boar king cried out angrily, constantly rolling on the ground, its snow-white tusks piercing the darkness and drawing cold light in the air. Its body was full of big and small injuries, its tail already broken. While flipping around, it revealed its fresh red injuries, stuck to the red lava python's body and scalded by the high temperature. The Kai Shan group did not get closer, but observed from a distance. Taking a few looks, the old Gu master was enlightened. I say, how did the sickly snake have this courage? Looks like the wild boar king was actually injured already. Tusk, he sure picked up the cheap goods. This scoundrel got lucky. Do you guys think that this wild boar king's body would have the black boar goo? Kai Cheng excitedly said with glowing eyes. Fang Yuan's expression was unchanged as he watched silently. At this time, Jiao San and his gang also realized the situation of being watched, and immediately the support Gu master Gu Yue Kong Jiang, who was the furthest away from the wild boar king, left the battlefield and ran over. Oh, it is Lord Kai Shan. There's no problems here now, we can handle it. There are many wild beast groups in front, they need your support, Kong Jiang said to the people. HMPH, what do you mean you can handle it? You're clearly lying through your teeth. I can see that this python isn't going to hang in there much longer. The old Gu master's experienced gaze revealed the situation at once. You're just afraid of us wanting to split the rewards after helping. The watery blue long-haired female Gu master immediately pointed out Jiao San and his gang's intention. This wild boar king is yours, Kai Shan said, looking at the old Gu master. The old Gu master snorted, but he still bent down, vomiting out a piece of white sticky spider web. The spider web expanded in the air and spread out, enveloping the wild boar king. The wild boar king struggled intensely in the web, breaking threads after threads, but it could not get free quickly. During this period, sickly snake Jiao San quickly got the red lava python to retreat. After that, together with the healing female Gu master in the group, they underwent emergency battle healing on the python. In the fierce battle earlier, the red lava python's rock body already had some cracks. Through the healing, the cracks mended, shrinking until they disappeared. Fang Yuan, you should go back. You still want to depend on our group, Kai Cheng said in annoyance. Fang Yuan took a step out and walked out from behind Kai Shan. Gu Yue Kong Jiang was blocked by Kai Shan's huge body earlier and did not see him. At the moment when he saw Fang Yuan, his expression turned weird. Jiao San turned his head around and upon seeing Fang Yuan was overjoyed at once. Fang Yuan, you're finally here. Quick, the spider web is not going to hold, you have huge strength. Go and restrain the wild boar king and buy us time. We need time to heal the red lava python. Without a defensive Gu, and only with rank 1 cultivation, getting close to the wild boar king was nothing but risky. Kai Shan took a look at Fang Yuan and said, "Go." Saying so, he took a huge step and left the place. He kept his word. Although the wild boar king had much value, he turned around and left without hesitation. Seeing Kai Shan's group leaving, Jiao San and the gang breathed a sigh of relief. From start to finish, they did not say a word of thanks. Jiao San continued shouting, "Fang Yuan, hurry! The wild boar king's strength is huge. The spider web is not going to hold out. If you perform well this time, I will not pursue the matter of you leaving the team on your own." "Okay," Fang Yuan agreed, quickly getting to the wild boar king and grabbing its two huge tusks. He used all his strength and pulled, causing the wild boar king to be suppressed. Its struggling suddenly diminished. "Good job," Jiao San praised, but his eyes shone with cold light. This Fang Yuan came at a good time. The small beast horde was the perfect chance. Jiao San had never thought of killing Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was his member, and if he died, the clan's evaluation of him would drop. This did not suit his interests. He only promised his uncle Gu Yue Dong Tu to slow Fang Yuan's growth. If he could drag it beyond 16 years old, he would obtain a fortune promised by Gu Yue Dong Tu. The truth is, even with his scheming and intolerant nature, he did not think of killing Fang Yuan before. This is not just because after a Gu master dies, the punishment hall would hold a thorough investigation, thus being risky, but also because of the clan's belief blood is thicker than water, family comes first. This notion is ingrained into the people's hearts. Unless there is a feud of killing one's parents or stealing one's wife, there is no such phenomenon of disputes. Like how the Gu Yue clan leader once taught the academy elder, not only does the system and rules hold the clan together, there is also the thick family relationships. Any organization would need to have a system and values as their basic core. Using this opportunity, I'll let Fang Yuan get injured and return to the village to nurse his injuries. Let's see if he can cultivate to rank 2 like that. Of course, I cannot strike personally. If I get discovered, that would be bad. Since there are so many beasts in the horde anyway, I'll borrow from their strength. Gu Yue Jiao San laughed coldly in his heart, but he asked, "Fang Yuan, how long can you hold out?" "A while more, don't worry, group leader," Fang Yuan replied with much strength. "Very good, Hua Xing. Go and plant the corrosion blood grass Gu," Jiao San instructed while healing the red lava python. Yes, a female Gu master walked up. She came to the side of the wild boar king and stretched out both hands, giving a thumbs up on both hands. The nails on her thumbs had a purple vine insignia coiling around. Light red-colored red steel primeval essence gushed out and surrounded her white thumb and entered the insignia. The vines were brought alive immediately, extending a delicate tentacle from her nails. The tentacles moved like snakes, extending to the wild boar king's mouth, and then along its teeth, going deep into its stomach. Heh. Fang Yuan covered his mouth in the darkness as it curled into a devious angle. Others would think about kinship and not have killing intent on their clansmen. This was going against the traditional moral values of the clan. But he did not put these values into his heart. The strength he placed on the wild boar king's tusk suddenly vanished. The wild boar king furiously growled and summoned all its strength. Its tusks swung in the air as Fang Yuan, who was holding onto both tusks, was brought along with the force and was thrown away. The wild boar king once again turned its head, and the tusks swept through. The female Gu master was beside it and could not react quickly enough to such a change. She was hit by the tusks and screamed in agony. Then her slim body, after getting hit by the tusks, broke into 2 with a snap. The female Gu master flew away like a broken bag. She was swept high into the sky and then plopped down again. She landed on the ground, her eyes wide open. She was dead on the spot. The female Gu master's body was like a rag doll. From the waist and across it was broken, and her upper body laid on the ground, displayed at an odd angle against her lower body, the arms parallel to the ground while her legs were pointing towards the sky. From afar, Fang Yuan also started to descend. First, he hit the tree canopy, and broke many branches before landing on the snowy ground. He turned his body nimbly and stood up on the snowy ground. Because he had utilized the jade skin goo earlier, other than some pain in his back, he was unscathed. On the battlefield, after a momentary silence, Jiao San's angry howl could be heard. "Fang Yuan, didn't you say you could hold on?" Fang Yuan laughed coldly in the dark, but suddenly his body twisted and he almost fell down. He used his hand to hold onto the tree trunk as support and was able to maintain his body balance. He pretended to limp as if he could not walk, but his gaze swept across the surroundings to see if there was any other Gu masters. Against the beast horde, the Gu masters were fighting with all they had, and could not be free enough or even have the mood to observe Fang Yuan. Even though he had been observing in secret and found no Gu masters nearby, Fang Yuan still discreetly chose to hide himself. From the other side, intense battle noises could be heard again. Evidently, the wild boar king had escaped its entrapment and was fighting once again with the red lava python. Fang Yuan shifted step by step towards them with a face of anxiety, almost falling onto the ground a few times. Dirt, soil, grass, and snow were all over his body, making him appear battered and exhausted. He finally got back to the fringe of the battlefield. On the battlefield, 3 people and a pig were fighting. The red lava python coiled around the body of the wild boar king and its 2 hind legs. The wild boar king's 2 front legs could only thrash around randomly, causing it to roll on the ground, sometimes struggling. With the movement of its 2 front legs, it knocked and crashed into things randomly. There were even more injuries on its body now. The boiling pig blood had dyed the floor red. Seeing Fang Yuan, the outermost positioned Yue Kong Jiang said, "Fang Yuan, you scum, you caused Hua Xin to die." I didn't mean it, but I really couldn't hold it," Fang Yuan shouted. "Fuck, then why did you promise so confidently if you couldn't? No means no, giving false promises like this will kill us all," Gu Yue Kong Jiang furiously screamed. If he was not in combat at the moment, he would go up and give Fang Yuan 2 tight slaps. Sorry, I won't do it again," Fang Yuan quickly yelled back. "Fang Yuan, we'll talk about this later," sickly snake Jiao San roared, feeling his pressure intensify. The almost dead wild boar king had flown into madness, and the red lava python had injuries and cracks all over its body. "Kong Jiang, don't bother with Fang Yuan. Quickly take out the knife-scale web." When Jiao San saw that the red lava python was almost at its breaking point, he shouted in panic with cold sweat all over. "Yes." Kong Jiang quickly retrieved the big belly frog and used his primeval essence, vomiting a piece of steel web. On this steel web, there were sharp spikes and apparent blades. "Fang Yuan, grab the other end and rush up with me. We'll entangle the wild boar king," Kong Jiang said. "But my leg is injured. I cannot walk," Fang Yuan said with an anxious expression, crippling his way there. "Useless thing." Kong Jiang, with no other choice, had to do it himself, his hands dragging the knife-scale's web and throwing it at the wild boar king. The wild boar king was covered by the knife-scale web, causing it to cry out as fresh blood splattered. It had predicted that its death was impending and struggled even more fiercely. As its struggle intensified, the knife-scale web's entanglement got tighter and its injuries worsened. As for the red lava python, because of its rock body, it did not take much damage from this knife-scale web. "What a waste of this fur," Jiao San said in pity. Finally settled, Kong Jiang breathed out in relief. At this time, Fang Yuan shouted, "Let me help you guys." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Numerous moonblades flew out and hit the knife-scale web, causing the steel threads to be torn apart. With the wild boar king's intense struggle, the hole got even bigger and the knife-scale web was torn into pieces, allowing the wild boar king to escape. At once, Kong Jiang stared with bulging eyes, lost for words. What? What the fuck? Another female goo master could no longer care about her feminine image and swore loudly. It seems I messed up. I wanted to help, Fang Yuan said, sounding very sincere and innocent. Jiao San dodged the wild boar king's charge, rolling on the floor. Before he even got up, he shouted, Fang Yuan, you dumb piece of shit, see what you did. You're simply garbage for a teammate. Leader, you must trust me, I didn't mean it, Fang Yuan defended himself. Shut the fuck up from now on, do nothing, wait at the corner, Jiao San shouted, rolling again and dodging the wild boar king's trample. Fang Yuan snickered, but still obediently took tens of steps back. All of you get back, Jiao San shouted, finally showing his true trump card as two strands of poisonous yellow air came out from his nostrils. The poisonous air continued to come out from his nose, growing more and more until they gathered into a lump of yellow poisonous cloud. The wild boar king and Jiao San's shadow could be seen outside the poisonous cloud. Kong Jiang, Fang Yuan and the others observed outside the yellow cloud. Fang Yuan said to the remaining female goo master, heal my leg, it's injured. The female goo master flew into a rage. My good sister is dead and your leg is only stumped. Why don't you go and die? Fang Yuan said in grievance, I didn't want this to happen either. But his eyes shone with a trace of sharpness. Should I act and eliminate these people? It is a chance to act now. In their subconscious minds, they would not expect me to have killing intention. If the sickly snake group is exterminated, there would be fewer restrictions on me. But if any goo master saw this process, I would fall into the abyss. The crime of killing a clansman is the most unforgivable in this world. Not only will I be executed, I would also have to face all sorts of torture for 7 days and 7 nights. Death is not scary, but for such a small group, it is not worth the risk. A pity the wild boar king is dying. After this battle, the sickly snake group would be greatly weakened, and their battle strength would be at the lowest. They would definitely leave the battlefield. What a pity, this was a godsend opportunity. Fang Yuan felt regret and pity in his heart. But he had done it to the greatest limit, and if he exceeded this, the feeling of sabotage would thicken. The others were not stupid. They would notice, and if other goo masters saw this, the risk would intensify. 5 minutes later, the wild boar king plopped onto the ground. The yellow cloud dissipated, and Jiao San breathed loudly with a pale face. He had used his final trump card, and now he had little to no primeval essence left. All of you come here and dissect the corpse quickly. We will retreat after taking the spoils of the battle, Jiao San shouted. Fang Yuan surrounded the wild boar king and quickly began to dissect the corpse. The wild boar king's blood was still hot, and the smell of blood was thick. Throughout the surrounding forest that was enshrouded in darkness, there were continuous howls from wild beasts and intense battle noises. But there were no wild beasts in this tiny battlefield. This was the authority of the Beast King. There were rules among the wild beasts. The thick aura of the wild boar king caused other wild beasts to shrink in fear, and if the beast horde came here, they would find their way around this region. Of course, if it was another stronger beast horde or another beast king, they would not care about the wild boar king's aura. At this time, pairs of blue eyes glowed in the surrounding darkness. From other places, blood-curdling screeches and alarmed cries of goo masters could be heard. It's the wolves, the wolf pack. The lightning wolf pack actually appeared. Damn it, why is there a wolf pack here? It is still not the time for the outburst of the wolf tide, right? Retreat, forget the wild boar king, we have to retreat quickly, Jiao San shouted, and the faces of the surrounding people also turned white. One lightning wolf was not scary, but a pack of lightning wolves, even the wild boar king would have to run. Most importantly, the lightning wolves' durability and endurance were high. They also had great speed, being most proficient at chasing. At such a critical moment, Jiao San could no longer care about the others, abandoning the three and running for his life. "Group leader, wait for me," Kong Jiang shouted in panic, catching up to him. "I do not have a goo worm that enhances my speed. I can't escape." Jiao San and the others have no primeval essence left, so even if they have a speed-type goo, they can't escape the chase of the lightning wolves. Under the danger of death, Fang Yuan evaluated calmly. He quickly hit the neck of the female goo master near him, who was in a daze, causing her to faint. Next, by dragging her, he burrowed into the wild boar king's stomach that was cut open. The wild boar king's stomach was already cut open with a huge wound. Fang Yuan squeezed his way into the bloody wild boar's body, at the same time using the female goo master's body to block away the entrance and cover up his body. The wolf pack quickly descended, mostly chasing after Jiao San and Kong Jiang, while a portion of them surrounded the wild boar king and feasted. While Fang Yuan was inside the wild boar's body, he could hear the wolves chewing and swallowing, as well as their biting, causing vibrations in the corpse. To think that the first beast horde had lightning wolves, this is a surprise. The clan would definitely send reinforcements. The wild boar king's body is huge, so if the lightning wolves want to eat it completely, they would still need some time. As long as I can hold out, I would be spared from them. Fang Yuan pondered deeply. Without accident, Jiao San and Kong Jiang should be dead meat. They had little primeval essence and were not speed-oriented, so with such a small distance, they would definitely get slaughtered by the wolves. When people panic, they would make dumb decisions. Under the pressure of death, there are little who can remain as calm as Fang Yuan and make the most appropriate decisions. Even if the wild boar king's flesh was all eaten, exposing Fang Yuan who was hiding, the amount of lightning wolves that Fang Yuan would have to deal with is definitely lesser than the others. According to his experience, at most 5 would appear, which would be his limit. He had much greater chance of surviving. The lightning wolves continued to chew and bite, the sound indicating that they were getting closer. The wild boar king's flesh had mostly gone into the lightning wolves' stomach. If a normal person was in such a predicament, they would feel as if the seconds that were passing by were like an eternity. But instead, Fang Yuan closed his eyes and took out his primeval stones, fighting against time to recover his primeval essence. The primeval essence that Fang Yuan recovered, while in the boar's stomach, went unused ultimately. The beast horde this time was under the supervision of the Gu Yue higher-ups, and the lightning wolf gang was just a small accident. Quickly, the Gu Yue higher-ups gave their response. 3 clan elders led their respective teams and swiftly grasped the situation. Merely 10 minutes later, Fang Yuan could hear fighting sounds from outside the boar's stomach, as well as the cries of the lightning wolves. He quickly kicked the female goo master out and crawled out with blood stains all over him. Fang Yuan was naturally not afraid of the lightning wolves, but he was afraid of getting caught in the battle. If a goo master accidentally attacked the corpse, wouldn't he be too unlucky? By then, who can he hold responsibility for? With a big living person suddenly crawling out from the boar's stomach, this caused the few goo masters fighting the lightning wolves to be taken aback. Fang Yuan's entire body was a bloody mess, and his leg was still entangled in the wild boar king's intestines. His entire body emitted a nose-piercing bloody smell, and the few goo masters frowned in response. But Fang Yuan paid no heed to that. He breathed deeply in enjoyance, extending his limbs and observing the battlefield. As he had predicted, there were 5 lightning wolves. But these lightning wolves were either old or injured. They were the bottom of the pack's hierarchy. As the wolf pack got stronger and bigger, in order to protect the young and healthy lightning wolves, the Wolf King would expel all these old and sickly wolves in order to allocate resources efficiently. These lightning wolves gathered together and rushed towards the surrounding beast groups, and under each other's influence, eventually formed this small beast horde. The 5 lightning wolves quickly had casualties under the goo master's attacks. They were too full from eating and their stomachs expanded, affecting their battle strength. At the same time, new arriving goo masters had sufficient primeval essence in their aperture and had their peak battle strength, unlike Jiao San and the rest. Primeval essence was especially important to goo masters. A weakened phoenix is inferior to a chicken. With less primeval essence, a goo master's battle strength would fall rapidly, and without primeval essence, they were even inferior to mortals. Why do you think, for example, the liquor worm, black and white boar goo, these goo were so precious? It had to do with this fact. Firstly, with the liquor worm, it can refine primeval essence and allow goo masters to store much more primeval essence. Remember that higher tier essence is essentially double of the previous tier. 88% mid-tier equals 44% upper tier. And the black and white boar goo worms gave goo masters strength. Without requiring primeval essence, they can unleash their worth. And for the black and white boar goo, once one person has used them, they can be given to another person to use, showing great collective value in a group. The battle continued for a while and stopped. The 5 lightning wolves continued to fall, and the new reinforcement group did not venture further. Their primeval essence had been used up nearly, and their battle strength had been greatly reduced. To be safe, they stopped on the spot. As they recovered, they awaited further reinforcements. A group of 5, with the reconnaissance goo master keeping alert, while the other 3 used primeval stones to recover their primeval essence. The healing goo master bent down and observed the female goo master's corpse. "She's dead," healing goo master sighed deeply. Seeing his sad expression, it seemed like he knew the female goo master. Fang Yuan watched coldly. This female goo master, which he had knocked unconscious, was blocking in front of him. Now she had lost her right chest and a leg. Her arm was also greatly injured by the wolves, eaten until the bones could be seen. But these injuries and the massive loss of blood was not the true cause of her death. What caused her demise was cardiac arrest. The lightning wolves' bites carried electric currents with them. The currents flowed into the female goo master's body while she was unconscious and caused her to have a heart attack. The originally beautiful and sexy body was now lying on the ground, still and unmoving. Her previous glamour was nowhere to be found, being just an ugly dead corpse now. "She's dead, and it is all your fault. As a man, why did you hide behind a woman? You're a disgrace to men." The healing goo master looked up, staring at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan shrugged emotionlessly, his expression calm. "The truth is, she competed with me over the spot, but eventually I won, so I'm very glad about the results." "Scumbag," the healing goo master rushed up. Bam! Fang Yuan raised his feet and sent him flying. Healing goo masters were normally weak at combat, and because of the clan rules, he did not dare to use his goo worms. Just competing with physical strength, how can he be Fang Yuan's match? This detestable guy. Healing goo master crawled up with a dusty face and wanted to rush up again, but was stopped by the reconnaissance goo master. "If you think I committed a crime and caused her to die, you can report it to the punishment hall. I'll take it," Fang Yuan said lightly as he stared at the healing goo master and left. Damn it." The healing goo master's eyes were blowing fire as he stared at Fang Yuan's back view, urging to rush up but was restrained by his teammates. "Calm the hell down. Even if you report it to the punishment hall, the clan won't punish him. We know you liked her, but although the clan cannot punish him, we can spread this matter out." Under the urging of his teammates, the healing goo master calmed down and lowered his head, crying. A boat encountered trouble. A man grabbed onto a wooden plank and was temporarily saved. At this time, another man swam up and wanted to grab the plank as well, but this plank can only hold the weight of one man, so the first man pushed the second man away so that he could be safe, causing the other person to drown in the sea. The rescued man was later tried in court, but declared not guilty. This is the wooden plank incident on Earth. Meaning to save oneself under forced circumstances, endangering another person's life is no crime. On Earth, it is the necessity law. In this world, there are similar clan rules. This means, even if the healing goo master reports it to the punishment hall, I will not be punished. But Fang Yuan continued to walk as he pondered. He moved in a steady pace without any rush. Along the path that had been cleared, Fang Yuan would discover corpses, the majority of these being wild beasts of all kinds of varieties, and in the mix were some goo master corpses. At the same time, there were small rescue groups rushing to the front lines. When they met Fang Yuan on the way, they would look at this bloody young man with curious and confused gazes. Fang Yuan paid no attention to them. His eyes were a dark abyss, continuing his train of thought. But if the fact that I knocked the female goo master unconscious was found out, I would be tried for harming a clansman. Yet at that time, nobody should have seen it. Jiao San and Kong Jiang were all looking at a different direction and rushing for their lives. Fang Yuan's footsteps came to a halt. He saw the corpses of Kong Jiang and Jiao San. The former's body had already been eaten until it was unrecognizable, while the latter's corpse was still well preserved. The red lava python was already a pile of lava rocks, completely dead, and beside the sickly snake, there were a few lightning wolves' corpses. Evidently, Jiao San's final struggle caused a huge battle. Good, that means that other than me, everyone else is dead. Fang Yuan evaluated internally, feeling joy. This means I would have fewer restrictions around me. Fang Yuan stopped. He saw Jiao San's finger twitch softly. Not dead, what a stubborn life. Fang Yuan snickered, killing intent rising again. At this point, there was tens of healing goo masters coming from the front. Quick, save the injured. They are our clansmen. We have to save what we can. If they are confirmed dead, retrieve their goo worms. Fang Yuan's gaze concentrated. What to do? They were so close, he would have to take a huge risk to kill Jiao San. Whether using strangulation or a moonblade, there will be traces. In front of these goo masters, he had no time to clear the traces. So let him live. Even if Jiao San is treated now, he might not survive. No. If I can exterminate Jiao San, there would be a lot lesser opposition in my way. Such an opportunity, if lost, I would have a hard time finding another one. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan had an inspiration. He gradually half-kneeled beside Jiao San, removing his upper shirt and covering Jiao San's face and upper body. He was inside the boar's stomach for a long time, so the pig's blood had soaked his shirt, causing it to be heavy and wet. He put the upperwear on Jiao San's nose and mouth, preventing him from breathing. Fang Yuan half-kneeled, silently watching, his expression solemn and pained. At this point, a goo master came over. Little lad, I am the medicine hall's goo master. Let me take a look. Scram! Fang Yuan growled angrily, pushing him away. The goo master fell on the ground, but he was not angry, instead consoling him. Little brother, my condolences. I know how you feel right now, and I know how it feels to see the clansmen that you live with die in front of you. But you are covered in blood now. You must be heavily injured. For the sake of these sacrificed clansmen, you have to live properly. Come, let me heal you. Fang Yuan did not open his mouth. He remained silent, the lower half of his face covered in a dark shadow. He allowed this goo master to check his body. The result was rather surprising. Although Fang Yuan was bathed in blood, appearing terrifying to everyone, he actually had no injuries at all. But the goo master quickly collected his spirits, concentrating on Jiao San. "I'm very sorry, the clan needs to take back the goo worms." The goo master sincerely looked at Fang Yuan, then he lifted the bloody shirt slowly off Jiao San. Jiao San's eyes were half open, without any life in them. The goo master professionally used his finger to prop open Jiao San's eyelids, looking at his iris and then touching his neck. But he felt no pulse. Dead. Completely dead. The goo master did not suspect anything. He sighed and placed his hand on Jiao San's stomach. His stomach still had some warmth, and the aperture was slowly disappearing. There were no goo worms inside. The goo master looked at Fang Yuan. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, every goo master's goo worm is stated in writing, and after a goo master dies, his goo worms will be treated as an inheritance for his inheritor. Taking it for oneself is against the clan rules. Fang Yuan was fearless, staring right at the goo master. "Of course I know that. You suspect that I took the group leader's goo worms." Taking these goo worms involved risks and trouble. If his secrets were dragged out, they would bring more loss than gain. Fang Yuan knew this. Even if with the spring-autumn cicada he could instantly refine any goo, it was difficult to do in the clan. It was not worth inviting such troubles for these minute gains. Apart from this, there was another point. With his financial status now, even if he got them, he might not be able to feed them. To Fang Yuan's question, the goo master laughed quickly. "I did not mean that. People cannot come back to life after dying, so please restrain your grief, little brother. For the sake of the deceased, you have to live even better." Fang Yuan gradually stood up. He used an extremely sad and pained expression, staring at sickly Snake's corpse with rapt attention. The night wind howled in his ears. "You are right." After a while, Fang Yuan broke the silence, his gaze determined, saying with an intentional meaning, "For the sake of those who died, I have to live even better than before." Internal Affairs Hall Interrogation Room. The light of the winter sun shone on the ground through the only window. Fine dust particles slowly floated on the light pillar. The light pillar enshrouded a chair. Fang Yuan was sitting on that chair, bathing in the sunshine. In the darkness ahead of him was a long table where 3 elders were seated. The interrogation had already continued for an hour. "Fang Yuan, are you sure there are no mistakes in your narration?" an elder asked. "Yes." Fang Yuan's eyes were down, looking at his toes. The sunshine shone on his fair face, making him look like a white sculpture. He had already expected this situation. After all his group members had died except him. In fact, every goo master would go through a certain degree of interrogation, which conveniently helped the clan to gather battle statistics. But Fang Yuan was continuously interrogated for an hour. Clearly, someone was making it difficult for him from behind the scenes. This was completely understandable. As long as one was human and had social relations, there would be series of people involved. "Then narrate your account on the battle situation at that time again," the elder continued to ask. "Okay, I used several days to break through to rank 2. Upon returning to the village gate, I met Kai Shan group and reunited with Jiao San group after finding them. At that time, they were having a fierce fight with the Wild Boar King," Fang Yuan calmly narrated. He took the initiative to reveal his breakthrough to rank 2. With no concealing goo worm, he wouldn't be able to conceal his rank 2 aura. Now the sickly snake and the team were dead, so he naturally fabricated the events. But he could only conceal some main details and narrate the majority of the events as they were. This was already the 5th time Fang Yuan narrated the events. The 3 elders frowned as they listened. They couldn't find any holes, but they knew if it was fabricated, then there would be unnecessary details. After one kept on talking about it several times, there would naturally be holes. But after 5 times, although there were some differences in how Fang Yuan narrated the events, The contents were the same. It should be true. The three elders communicated with each other using eye signals. But one elder was not satisfied. Her daughter was the sickly snake group's healing goo master, whom she loved dearly, but ended up dying a cruel death in the wolves' mouths. Thus she was very angry, and her gaze carried coldness as she looked at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, you cut the knife scales net with your moon blades. Why did you do it? This middle-aged female elder spoke sternly. Because I wanted to have some contributions, but it ended up being a bad move, Fang Yuan replied. Then let me ask you, did you intentionally use your teammate, the female goo master, as a shield when you hid in the boar's stomach? The elder asked again. I don't know. I was very scared at that time and hurriedly tried to hide inside the boar king, but she also entered inside and fought me for the inside position. She couldn't defeat me and was bitten to death by the lightning wolves. I am ashamed, Fang Yuan answered. The middle-aged female elder grinded her teeth. Fang Yuan's answer was cunning. He only stated the fact but didn't mention his subjective intentions at all. This made the elders who wanted to suppress him not find any handle on him. Their hearts were filled with anger, but they couldn't do anything. Under such situation, they couldn't judge Fang Yuan guilty. It had already been 3 days since the small beast died. The statistics of the casualties made all the higher-ups have ugly expressions. There were losses in the past small beast tides too, but they were definitely not as grave as this. The cause was the lightning wolves pack. Before, these lightning wolves packs would only appear after at least 3 waves of small beast tide. The environment was dangerous in this world, survival difficult. From a human standpoint, to survive, apart from fighting with other humans for resources, they still had to struggle against fierce beasts and nasty weathers. And these struggles were often very difficult. The small beast tide was still only a prelude. The real terror would be the large wolf tide, a year after. Tens of thousands of lightning wolves would charge towards the village with the terrifyingly powerful lightning wolf king. The female elder continued to ask several questions, but she had to finally give up under Fang Yuan's invulnerable answers. Then Fang Yuan, what do you plan to do from now on? Another elder asked with deep intention. I plan to apply for the family assets, inheriting and continuing my family's heritage. Fang Yuan spoke openly. There was no need to conceal it. Sickly Snake Group was destroyed, and now only Fang Yuan was left. Because of this, he didn't have to use Rank 2 Goo Master's right to give up a mission and could accept the family assets mission. The elder nodded his head, then shook his head. You didn't understand my meaning. Apart from you, your group is no more. I can give you a suggestion. Join another group. Internal Affairs Hall's mission's difficulty is designed for groups. It is very difficult for a lone person to complete them. Whether it is your family inheritance mission or the compulsory monthly missions, they are both like this. Fang Yuan was silent. This elder continued, of course, there is another option. You are already a Rank 2 Goo Master. You have the qualifications to become a group captain. You just need to pass the examination mission and you can build your own group. Which do you want to choose? Fang Yuan blinked his eyes. I don't know yet, I need some time to consider. Then you can leave. Think it over as soon as possible. After a few days pass, it will be difficult for you to join a group, the elder said concernedly. Fang Yuan sneered inwardly. He wouldn't choose any of these 2 paths. He had a lot of secrets. Only by himself could he be safe and do things properly. Otherwise, wouldn't he be annoyed to death if there were others with him all the time? Leaving this interrogation room, Fang Yuan didn't immediately leave the Internal Affairs Hall, but instead applied for the family inheritance mission. However, he was informed that he could only take it after 3 days due to the busy events recently. Coming out of the Internal Affairs Hall, he gazed at the sky. It was just an ordinary winter afternoon. The winter was bleak along with biting wind. The sky seemed to be pervaded with deep grief. Today is group memorial assembly. Gu Yue Jinju is dead, did you know? Fang Yuan, Mo Bei, along with a group of youths, were walking through the path. Other than Mo Bei, there were Fang Zheng, Kai Cheng, and others. Mo Bei and Kai Cheng normally hated each other very much, but today, they seemed to forget this grievance and walked together. Big brother Jinju studied with us for a year. Come with us, Fang Zheng said. Gu Yue Jinju. A girl's image immediately appeared in Fang Yuan's mind. Previously, she had been evenly matched with Mo Bei on the arena, but lost because of her lacking stamina. She was a hardworking girl. But death didn't discriminate between beauty and ugly. Most people would feel pity, but Fang Yuan was indifferent as usual. Ah, she is dead, but dying of old or sickness, they are both normal events. After seeing it many times, you'll be indifferent to it. You guys go, I am busy. Fang Yuan brushed past the group. This guy. At once, many among the group were angered. He is really cold-blooded and heartless. He simply doesn't have a feeling of friendship. There is a rumor going around recently. You should have all heard it, right? The reason Fang Yuan survived was because he hid inside a boar's stomach and used his female Gu master teammate as a shield. He is really a disgrace with no worth. He doesn't even have the manners of a man. Kai Cheng folded his arms and laughed coldly. Big brother, Fang Zheng lowered his head and grinded his teeth. Hearing these discussions, as Fang Yuan's little brother, he felt shame. Fang Yuan left, and as he walked farther, the mockeries behind him gradually couldn't be heard anymore. His heart was calm. Why would insults matter to me? Insults were insults, what could they do? A superficial person would be angry due to curses, and would be happy due to praises. These were just bystanders' way of looking at you. Those who lived according to others' point of view were really pitiful. In fact, some people had deliberately spread the rumors to degrade Fang Yuan's name. Sacrificing a female teammate to protect oneself wouldn't be subjected to punishment, but would be criticized by moral consensus. But this was the exact situation Fang Yuan wanted. Once one enters the system, one would be a pawn with no freedom and must follow the system's rules. To Fang Yuan, it was a huge obstacle. He needed resources, and even more needed to be solitary. So he wanted to be a loner. What if you were rejected by the crowd? Haha, only weak-hearted people would be afraid of being rejected. If this happened on Earth, no matter who, they would end up dead. After all, 2 fists can't beat 4 hands. Social connections were the way to survival. But in this world, if the cultivation was strong, one person could beat 10, hundreds, and thousands of enemies. So what if you were rejected? Just kill the ones who block your path. If you don't have resources, snatch them. Every world had different rules and regulations. The society structure was also bound to be different, causing the difference in human behaviors. And in a world of martial arts, group thoughts were rather weak. So in this world, devils run amok. What? That lad, he's a rank 2 Gu master now, and even applied for the asset-splitting mission from the Internal Affairs Hall. Uncle Gu Yue Dong Tu's furious and shocked voice reverbed throughout the main hall. That is indeed so. Although I accepted your primeval stones, I cannot do much to stop him. I only managed to tell him to collect the mission in 3 days. I can only stall that long for you. That is my limit. The middle-aged Gu master beside him said. Gu Yue Dong Tu snorted in his heart. He could sense the hidden meaning in the Internal Affairs Hall's Gu master's words. Stall for 3 days, it is the limit. Such words were merely an excuse to extort even more money. But top priority now is still to do all I can to retain the assets. This rascal is really too troubling. Gu Yue Dong Tu's sweat poured from his forehead, as Fang Yuan's growth was so rapid it gave him the feeling of a heart attack. I came here especially to tell you this, so I'll take my leave now." The middle-aged man stood up to depart. "Don't be in such a rush, brother. There are some things I still need for you to assist me a little with." Gu Yue Dong Tu hurriedly stood up, retrieving a money bag and stuffing it into the middle-aged Gu master's hand. The male Gu master took the entire bag of primeval stones and stuffed it into his chest pocket, his tone quickly changing, laughing loudly. "Brother Dong Tu, you are too polite. We have such a great relationship. We've known each other for over 10 years. Don't worry, I will prepare the toughest mission for Fang Yuan, but he might employ other Gu masters to help him. You have to watch out for this." "Hehe, you can be rest assured. Although I have retired, I still have my relationships. I've sent people to observe him. If that lad employs outsiders, that is against the clan rules, and I am still waiting to get a hold of his weakness. He. Then I am at ease, goodbye. Let me send you out." "It is okay, please stay." Gu Yue Dongtu stared at the leaving Gu master, his smile slowly collapsing. This Fang Yuan, he is only C grade, how can he advance to rank 2 so soon? Damn it, what were Jiao San and the others doing? Can't even guard against a newbie. Now Jiao San and the team were all killed by the beast horde. What incompetent fools. Fang Yuan also advanced to rank 2. This way he can definitely receive the family asset mission. My previous methods to block him will no longer work. But he is now working alone, and aiming to complete the asset inheritance mission alone is really difficult. No, this lad's luck is absurd. First I got Jiao San and the rest to suppress him, and immediately the beast horde came. If he relies on this luck again and completes the mission, what then? I have to prepare for the worst. An old sly fox, Gu Yue Dong Tu, being able to enter and leave the fighting life peacefully and live up until now, it represented success already. Compared to the newly independent Fang Yuan, his interpersonal relationships were much stronger. Collecting honey wine. When Fang Yuan received the asset mission, his eyes shone with cold glimmer. This mission was very troublesome. It was to collect 5 liang of golden bees honey wine. Golden bees were all fist-sized with gold and black stripes, and they had a sharp stinger packed with a strong attack. That was not all. Among normal small hives, there was only honey. Only those large or medium hives had the precious honey wine made from a large accumulation of honey. This mission, even for a 5-man group, is very difficult. Because the number of people no longer matter, the Gu master collecting honey wine has to have a defensive-type Gu to withstand the stings. It seems that Uncle's relationship has struck and is bullying my lack of a defensive Gu worm. Unfortunately for him. Fang Yuan laughed coldly in his heart. At this point, it showed the inherent benefits of the flower wine monk's inheritance. Easy to do things secretly, difficult to do things openly. The more one worked openly, the more their trump cards get revealed, and they become easier to trap. Conversely, working secretly helps to hide trump cards and lets others be unable to assess your situation, thus not being able to nip the problem in the bud. But if I want to collect honey wine, the Jade Skin Gu isn't enough. Jade Skin Gu is only a rank 1 Gu, but if it can advance to the rank 2 White Jade Gu, I would be able to do it easily. Without the need to attempt to take risks, his rich life experience allowed him to take less pointless steps. Speaking of which, Fang Yuan is already a rank 2 initial stage Gu master, but the Gu worms on him, other than the spring-autumn cicada, were all rank 1 Gu worms. This situation is like a grown man who is able to wield a halberd only holding a small dagger. The dagger is unable to display the full extent of the man's strength, and only with a halberd is it the most suitable. Fang Yuan had 7 Gu worms in his possession. The Vital Gu Spring-Autumn Cicada, Moonlight Gu, Liquor Worm White Boar Gu, Jade Skin Gu, and 2 Little Light Gu. In this mix, The moonlight goo can fuse with the two little light goo to form the moonglow goo. The white boar goo and jade skin goo can fuse into white jade goo. Moonglow goo represents a surge in attack power, while white jade goo is an increase in defense. If Fang Yuan had enough primeval stones, he would choose to refine them both. But not long ago, in order to push his cultivation to rank 2, he expended most of his primeval stones. Now, with the primeval stones on hand, it was only enough for one use. Undoubtedly, choosing to refine the white jade goo is a better choice. With the white jade goo, I can retrieve the honey wine, and with the white jade goo, I can advance better in the flower wine monk's inheritance. But if this fusion fails, the results will be dire. My finances are on the brink of collapse, so without the white jade goo, I cannot get my parents' assets. Stuck at this point, it will greatly slow my growth. Fang Yuan felt a subtle pressure. He knew that he was at a crossroad, and if this fusion succeeds, the future is bright. If he fails, then he would fall into the abyss. To get back to the current point, he would need even more effort in management and spend a longer time. Ali. Goo masters use their primeval sea as the base, and goo worms as the method. Goo is a goo master's necessity. Without goo, they are not goo masters. Other than their own cultivation, goo masters also have to refine, nurture, and use goo. In the room, clan leader Gu Yue Bo meticulously explained to Fang Zheng. Refine, nurture, and use. These three aspects, whichever one is also a huge knowledge trove. Even if you spend an entire lifetime, you cannot completely finish it. On the aspect of refining goo, you already know how to refine a goo and make it yours. But this is only a single refinement. There is also the more important aspect of fusion. Through fusion, you can fuse multiple goo worms into one with a higher rank. This is the evolution of life. Fang Zheng, you are already a rank 2 goo master, but your goo worms are all rank 1. It is time you refine a rank 2 goo worm. Fang Zheng asked, Clan leader, how do I do fusion? Gu Yuebo said, to fuse, you have to know the recipe. Some goo worms cannot be fused together. Through many eons of trial and error and endless failures, our ancestors have come up with several recipes. Our Gu Yue clan has the most in-depth research with the Moonlight Goo, and we now have 2 rank 5 recipes on hand. What is a rank 5 recipe? In accordance to this recipe, through multiple fusions, one can finally refine up to a rank 5 goo worm. Fang Zheng, you have 1 jade skin goo and a moonlight goo on hand. It satisfies the condition for one of the rank 5 recipes. If you follow this recipe, you will get the rank 5 goo eventually, Moonlight Treasure King Goo. Moonlight Treasure King Goo, Fang Zheng's face was full of desire. Hehe, telling you about a rank 5 goo now is still too early. Come, take out your jade skin and moonlight goo. I'll teach you how to fuse these 2 goo into the rank 2 moon raiment. Saying so, Gu Yue Bo's expression turned solemn. The most important thing about fusing goo is parallel thinking, fusing your consciousness. The moonlight goo and jade skin goo in your hands now have no wild consciousness anymore, overwritten by your own consciousness. What you have to do now is to fuse these 2 thoughts together. Fuse together, Fang Zheng blinked confused. Gu Yue Bo smiled. No worries, practice more, you will be able to grab hold of this feeling. Let's begin. Fang Zheng nodded, and under Gu Yue Bo's guidance, his light red-colored red steel primeval essence rose like smoke, enveloping the jade skin goo and the moonlight goo in midair. Fang Zheng shut his eyes, feeling and manipulating the 2 goo worms' consciousness. Gu Yue Bo was outside watching, and saw the jade skin goo and moonlight goo circling each other like 2 planets. As the consciousness fused, the distance between the 2 goo worms shortened. After 3 hours of continuous tries, their consciousness was finally controlled by Fang Zheng and fused together perfectly. At once, the jade skin goo and moonlight goo both erupted in a bright white light. The two lights linked together, forming a lump as big as a face. Maintain this condition and throw primeval stones into the light, Gu Yuebo advised. Fang Zheng took out a primeval stone and threw it into the light. Strangely, after throwing the primeval stones in, the stones turned into a surge of pure natural essence, completely fusing with the lump of light. Only rock powder remained, scattering on the bed. Continue throwing until the rank 2 Gu is complete, Gu Yuebo said. Fang Zheng was about to throw a second piece, but at this point, the light disappeared, and the two Gu flew in two opposite directions like they were pushed away ruthlessly by each other. The fusion failed. Damn, I forgot to maintain the fusion of the consciousness earlier. Fang Zheng immediately realized his mistake. No worries, failing at the start is normal. Gu Yuebo consoled but reminded, but be careful, you cannot fail too many times, if not both the moonlight and jade skin Gu will perish. Fang Zheng recalled back the jade skin Gu and moonlight Gu, and found cracks on the moonlight Gu's surface, while the jade skin Gu looked like it was weakened. His heart sank, feeling the difficulty of refining Gu. Crash. Great waves tumbled in the primeval sea, rising up and down. The sea was light red in color. This was not the green copper sea of a rank 1, but a red steel sea. The aperture was covered with a layer of light coating. This was the appearance of rank 2 initial stage. The whole red steel primeval essence sea occupied 44% of the aperture. Above the sea, the spring-autumn cicada appeared. After going through a year of recuperation, it had already somewhat recovered. Previously, there was no shine from its body. It looked rough and dim like withered wood. Now it had some gloss to it. Its two wings had been like the yellowed and withered leaves of autumn, and the tips had been damaged. Now there was some green to it, and there were black leaf lines on its tips, making a complete arc without any previous defect. Spring-autumn cicada, spring and autumn. I see now, it needs to experience the changes of spring and autumn to recover. Since rebirth, a year has passed by, which means a turn of spring and autumn, and so it has recovered. Fang Yuan looked at the spring-autumn cicada, and this thought rose within him, increasing his understanding of the spring-autumn cicada by another stage. A Gu master needs to refine, nurture, and use Gu. Among them, use was further classified and contained myriads of variations. Fang Yuan had been in contact with the spring-autumn cicada all the time. His comprehension of the spring-autumn cicada was slowly accumulating and deepening. But the spring-autumn cicada is still weak. It has only moved a few steps away from nearing death. I can only use its aura to suppress Gu worms and increase the efficiency of single refining. As for fusing, it won't be of any help. There were mystical Gu worms that raised the success rate of fusion. Everything had their own specialties. The spring-autumn cicada possessed the ability of rebirth. Other than the spring-autumn cicada, there was the fat liquor worm which was curled up in a round ball, floating and playing around in the sea. The ladybug-like white boar Gu and the jade skin Gu, which had green jade color, were revolving around each other. Fang Yuan opened his eyes and slowly unfolded his right palm. In it were the imprints of a crescent moon and two five-sided stars. They were precisely the residents of the moonlight Gu and the two little light Gu. Fang Yuan sat cross-legged on the bed, his line of sight falling on the bed sheet. There were 3 money bags on the bed sheet. 2 were bulging and 1 was mostly thinned out. Apart from this, there was also a snow-white tusk from the wild boar king. It looked like an elephant's tusk, lying close to Fang Yuan's leg on the bed sheet. Sickly Snake Group had used all their strength to kill the wild boar king, but they met with the lightning wolf pack's attacks, and the majority of the skin and flesh of the wild boar king had been eaten away by the lightning wolves. The 2 snow-white tusks were thus the most valuable spoils of war. According to the clan's rules and regulations, Fang Yuan, being one of the members in killing the Wild Boar King, received one of the Wild Boar King's tusks. Fang Yuan looked at these items. His expression was heavy. I don't have much primeval stones left, and it is only enough for one fusion. After this fusion, no matter success or failure, my financial condition will drop. But if I don't fuse it now, my primeval stones will only last for 12 or so days, and I will even lose the chance to fuse. Fang Yuan was raising 7 goo worms, so he had a large financial burden. And because of his C-grade aptitude, he had to repeatedly use the liquor worm to quickly improve his cultivation. Thus, his primeval stone consumption was more than an ordinary goo master's. Recently, he no longer used primeval stones to recover the primeval essence in his aperture. The red steel sea in his body now was all recovered by its natural self-recovery rate. Fang Yuan was already beginning to cut the primeval stone's consumption. He couldn't misuse them after calculating his expenditures. The current situation was like he was about to fall off a cliff. He could only grab on to the wild grass at the side of the cliff to stabilize his body without falling. But as time passed, these lifelines would be continuously used up. If he didn't take any risks, it wouldn't take long for him to fall off the cliff. What he had to do now was to use these lifelines and climb up the cliff with all his strength. If he succeeded, he could seize the opportunity to obtain the family inheritance and ascend to another level, and it would be a whole new scene in front of him. If he lost, he would drop down, and in trying to climb up to this stage again, he would need to spend large amount of time and energy. No matter what happens, let's begin. Fang Yuan took in a deep breath and focused his gaze. White boar goo, jade skin goo. The 2 goo worms followed his will, drilling out of his aperture and floating in front of Fang Yuan. Fuse, Fang Yuan shouted inwardly. White boar goo and jade skin goo suddenly emitted dazzling lights and directly bumped into each other. This was a silent bump, but it created a ball of light. The white light was more dazzling than before. This showed that Fang Yuan's 2 consciousness were fusing. Fang Yuan used his consciousness to maintain the white ball of light white, taking out primeval stones from the bag and throwing them into the ball of light. The primeval stones were engulfed by the ball of light, and only rock powders remained, scattering on the bed. Each time the ball of light swallowed a primeval stone, its edges would expand a little. The ball of light absorbed the natural primeval essence and became bigger and bigger. Gradually, it changed from the size of a wash bowl to a grindstone size. Almost there, Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes. He decisively threw the Wild Boar King's snow-white tusk into the ball of light. If anyone were to witness this scene, they would be astonished. The secret recipe of fusing white boar goo and jade skin goo to form white jade goo was well known and circulated for over 1,000 years, but no one had ever heard of adding in a Wild Boar King's snowy tusk. However, not being used in the past doesn't mean that it won't be in the future. 150 years from now, a goo master would improvise this recipe. He discovered that adding a wild boar's tusk would greatly increase the fusion success rate. Fang Yuan had 500 years of experience. He naturally knew of this trick. The snowy tusk was thrown into the ball of light, and a fantastic transformation happened immediately. The previously dazzling light turned softer. The light that was blindly shooting off everywhere now had a movement pattern to it, naturally changing between light and dark. Under Fang Yuan's gaze, the ball of light slowly shrunk and finally dissipated into the air. Instead of the jade skin goo and white boar goo, there was now a completely new goo worm calmly hovering in front of Fang Yuan. It was like an oval pebble. Its whole body was completely white. This white was not pale like chew-in paper and was not milky white like milk, but was a kind of moist white like that of the luster of jade. This was rank 2 white jade goo. Only now did Fang Yuan let out a mouthful of turbid air, his heart relieved. You might think that this process looks simple. It is not. First, the consciousness merging needed multitasking. Drawing a circle with one hand and a square with another is called dual tasking. A lot of people cannot even do this, let alone the highly difficult multitasking. One can only achieve multitasking after years of hard cultivation, suffering through countless defeats and setbacks, and even then one would still need some talent. Fang Yuan could do this so proficiently because of his 500 years of deep experience. Not a hint of his experience was fake or forged. Second was understanding and knowledge of goo worms. The deeper the goo master's understanding of goo worms, the higher the success rate of fusing. This point in about 300 years from now would be a widely recognized knowledge. Thus, the longer you use goo worms, the greater the probability of success in goo fusion. Third was the correct and original recipe. For example, this time, adding the snowy tusk was like the finishing touch, increasing the success rate by 20%. Its efficiency was extraordinary. Some recipes were widely spread in this world, but there were many recipes which people would collect and weren't circulated. Such as in the Gu Yue village, the recipe of refining moonlight goo was held by a small number of elders and successive generations of clan leaders. Especially those rank 5 and above recipes. They would be hidden and treasured like their lives. Many goo masters would not spread these recipes until death. But even with these 3 points, there was no absolute guarantee of success. Even a person like Fang Yuan, who had 500 years of memories, plentiful experiences, deep understanding of goo worms, could multitask and knew a lot of recipes, had a possibility of failure when fusing goo worms. One can only say that his failure rate is lower. Fusing goo worms was an evolution of life, a type of creation. It condensed time to the extreme, making the long evolution process bear fruit in an instant. On Earth, only gods could do this. This was no doubt a miracle of life. Goo masters making divine intervention with a mortal body, how could it succeed every time? If it succeeded every time, that would not be human but God. In the blink of an eye, 10 more days passed. Deep in the mountain, in the underground rock forest, Squeaka, tens of jade-eye stone monkeys jumped in the air with blurred silhouettes. They continued to leap and attacked Fang Yuan aggressively. If it was like before, Fang Yuan would retreat without a doubt. But now he stood on the spot with a cold expression, still like a rock. The stone monkeys slammed, scratched, and bit Fang Yuan's body, but a crisp ding-ding sound could be heard, as if they were not attacking a person but a sturdy jade pillar. A bright white jade light covered the area as it attached itself to Fang Yuan's body. This light, although it was thinner than the jade skin goo's jade green glow, it had more than twice of the defensive power. Jade skin goo's defense can only handle up to 16 monkeys, simultaneous attack, but now Fang Yuan could face off against more than 30 monkeys alone. On the arena, I could break Fang Zheng's jade skin goo's defense with my bare fists, but if Fang Zheng used this white jade goo, even if I broke my wrist bone, I would not be able to penetrate his defenses. Fang Yuan pondered, while diverting a part of his thoughts towards his aperture sea. In the red steel primeval sea, the white jade goo sank to the bottom of the sea, constantly absorbing primeval essence. Its surface also emitted a faint white jade glow, like a light bulb. Every time the stone monkeys attacked Fang Yuan, the white jade goo's surface, which resembled an oval pebble, would flash faintly. At the same time, Fang Yuan could feel a trace of his primeval essence being expended. White jade goo's defense is the same type as the jade skin goo. They both require a continuous source of primeval essence. At the same time, the greater the intensity of the attack, the more primeval essence is expended, Fang Yuan concluded in his heart. At the same time, he counterattacked. Punches and kicks kicked up a sandstorm. His strikes were simple, yet brutal and effective with an imposing aura. Although the white boar goo was gone, the strength it gave to Fang Yuan still remained in his body. Endless monkeys were hit by Fang Yuan. Some were kicked away, knocking on the stone pillar. Some were killed in midair, turning into stone and breaking into fragments when they landed on the ground. At the same time, with a flick of his wrist, Fang Yuan sent moonblades flying around, like the scythe of the reaper, harvesting the lives of the stone monkeys. With the supply of red steel primeval essence, the rank 1 moonlight goo could cause the greatest attack damage to the monkeys with every hit. Squeak squeak. The stone monkeys screamed in fright, retreating. Fang Yuan had exterminated the stone monkeys in a short moment of counterattack, with only 5 or 6 remaining. Fang Yuan killed another, and the remaining stone monkeys broke down, frantically running around and escaping deep into the stone forest. Fang Yuan did not chase these escapees, but continued forwards deeper into the stone forest. These days, he had been working hard to find the next clue for the inheritance. With continuous exploring, he had stepped foot on most of the areas around the stone forest, but did not find anything. He had a hunch, vaguely guessing the flower wine monk's idea. He felt that the next step of the inheritance was likely linked to the most central area of the stone forest. The deeper he got into the forest, the larger the stone pillars were, and the more stone monkeys lived inside them. Fang Yuan walked as he observed. At the center of the stone forest, there was a large stone pillar. Its circumference was wider than tens of men surrounding it and attempting to hug it. This stone pillar was his objective. But the deeper he got, the larger the monkey gangs and the higher the difficulty. Fang Yuan took a crucial step out and entered the alert zone of a group of monkeys. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The black caves in the stone pillar had emerging furious jade-eye stone monkeys, and up to 100 jumped in Fang Yuan's direction. Fang Yuan ran for his life. Against so many monkeys, even with the white jade goo, he could not massacre them. The stone monkeys chased Fang Yuan for a while, then some started to abandon the chase and turned around, going back to their caves. Eventually, only 30 or so monkeys trailed after Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, seeing the time was right, turned around and fought. After a round of fighting, the last few monkeys ran and escaped, not even daring to return to their original caves. After a few rounds, Fang Yuan killed over 100 stone monkeys. On the road there were traces of broken stones from the corpses of the stone monkeys. Insufficient primeval essence. Fang Yuan inspected his primeval sea and sighed, forced to stop in his tracks. If it was before, he would use his primeval stones to recover swiftly. But now, after fusing the white jade goo, he had a severe lack of primeval stones, or rather his entire finance was on the brink of collapsing. Fang Yuan picked up the jade rock eyeballs and stuffed them into his bag. It should be at the bottom of the center of that rock pillar, but to reach there, I have to open a path. This feeling was getting more intense. Fang Yuan gave it one last look before opening the stone door and returning to the second secret room. At the corner of the hidden room, there were some items. A small bag with hundreds of eyeball jades. Fang Yuan opened the bag and poured his loot in from today. The jade pearls collided with one another, emitting a crisp sound. There was another bag, and wild boar tusks were inside. But now Fang Yuan no longer needed to slaughter wild boars. He used the white boar goo and the jade skin goo to refine the white jade goo. The white boar goo had disappeared and reduced his necessity for pork to 0. The new white jade goo was more like the jade skin goo. It consumed jade rocks. Jade skin goo needed 2 liang of jade rocks every 10 days. while the white jade gu needed 8 liang of jade rocks every 20 days. Normally speaking, the higher the rank, the longer interval there is for each meal. Rank 2 gu usually feed every half a month, while rank 3 gu feed every month or longer. Of course, higher-ranking gu also consume more food. On average, the white jade gu consumed more in cost than the jade skin gu and the white boar gu combined. But to Fang Yuan, he had this rock forest and did not lack jade rocks. At the same time, he did not need pork, so he did not need to kill wild boars. Thus this saved him a lot of trouble and a lot of time. Tying the little bag up, Fang Yuan picked up a bullskin water sack. Inside the water sack, there was golden honey wine inside. A few days ago, Fang Yuan had relied on the jade skin gu and endured the bees' attacks and gathered enough honey wine. I only have 2.5 primeval stones left. It is time to go to the Internal Affairs Hall and turn in the mission. Fang Yuan kept the water sack well and returned to the tunnel, squeezing out of the rock crack and returning to the outside world. It was sunset now. The golden sunset of winter was in fact not cold, the weather bright and fair. The setting sun emerged with comfortable rays of a red-orange color, the exquisite sunlight passing through the crown of pine trees and shining onto the mountain floor. Walking alone, he headed towards the village. Yet Fang Yuan did not go directly, but took a few reroutes to prevent the rock crack from being found out. Winter wind blew on his face. This was the smell of freedom. Back in the academy, he could only sneak out at night. Now that he was rank 2, he could move about freely in the day without any suspicion. More importantly, the death of Sickly Snake and the others allowed Fang Yuan to move alone with fewer restraints. The only thing is, Fang Yuan was now alone without any supporting group members. The following clan mission, which occurs monthly, he had to complete one at least, and that would be difficult. Now, after the small beast horde, all the groups had regrouped. Fang Yuan had missed the chance. Because of his reputation, Fang Yuan was also ostracized by the Gu masters. Joining other small groups was not going to be easy. So what if I'm left out? The more I float around at the brink, the less attention is on me, and the more advantageous it is for me. As for the clan mission, it is mandatory, so I have to take it. But, thinking of this, Fang Yuan's eyes shone with cold light. He had plans already. The clan mandates that every Gu master had to accept a mission every month, but did not force them to complete it. Being unable to complete the mission will result in falling evaluation. This was something no Gu master wanted to see, thus they did their all to complete the missions. But to Fang Yuan, this evaluation was crap. Walking into the village, there was an endless stream of people walking along the limestone paths of the streets. At this time, it is normally the peak period. Many Gu masters complete their missions with injuries and whatnot, returning to the village. After working for a day, farmers drag their muddy feet and tired bodies, quietly moving along. In this world, living was not easy. It was full of pain and suffering. The setting sun slowly dropped below the mountain top, giving out the last ray of warm light. This light would be diminished by the unevenly crisscrossed branches of the withering trees, becoming the fragments of time scattered upon the green jade walls of bamboo houses. "Oh no, my toy," a girl cried out, chasing her spinning top among the crowd. The spinning top rolled to Fang Yuan's feet, and the girl also hit Fang Yuan's leg, falling on the ground. Sorry, for offending Lord Gu Master, please pardon us." The little girl's father hurried over. When he saw Fang Yuan's clothing, his expression was white as paper, bringing the little girl and kneeling down, kowtowing to Fang Yuan. The girl cried out of shock, pearls of tears trailing down her white and rosy face. The walking mortals, upon seeing this scene, turned away and avoided them like the plague. Some Gu masters stared coldly, before turning away and leaving. "Stop crying, you troublemaker." The father was frightened, angry and afraid, moving his hand to give her a slap, but Fang Yuan grabbed his hand, not allowing any movement. "Just a small matter, no worries." Fang Yuan laughed lightly, touching the little girl's head, softly consoling, "Don't be afraid, it is okay." The girl stopped crying, using her teary eyes to look at Fang Yuan, thinking this big brother was really gentle. Thank you, Lord, for your kindness." The girl's father was overjoyed, kowtowing to Fang Yuan without a break. Fang Yuan continued forward. His rented house was not far away, and on the ground floor of that bamboo house, his uncle Gu Yue Dong Tu stood, staring at Fang Yuan, who was still a distance away, evidently waiting for him. With his abilities, Gu Yue Dong Tu could easily find Fang Yuan's residence. He was wearing the Gu Master's uniform, which he rarely wore. He had leg wrappings around his legs and was wearing a red belt around his waist. Everything was neat and clean, and gave off a faint feeling of majesty. He looked at Fang Yuan, who was slowly coming over, and his line of sight fell on the latter's belt. Deep emotions emerged in his heart. Only C-grade aptitude, but he has already broken to rank 2 at 16. It is truly surprising. I really don't know how he succeeded. However, this quick speed should be mostly attributed to the liquor worm. Pity that liquor worm has no use at rank 2. Following that, he saw the faint smile hanging on Fang Yuan's mouth. This smile made Gu Yue Dongtu's heart chill. Anger rushed through his mind. This kid acts so calm. Does he think he has me trapped within his palm? Fang Yuan slowly walked over and stopped in front of Gu Yue Dongtu. He knew the latter was definitely here for him. Sure enough, Gu Yue Dongtu opened his mouth. "Fang Yuan, I think we can have a talk." "What do you want to talk about?" Fang Yuan slightly frowned. Gu Yue Dongtu laughed but then talked of another thing. "Do you know, I was the same as you. I became a Gu master when I was 15. It was right at the time of Wolf Tide. There was a large number of casualties, and we students also had no choice but to fight. I had B-grade aptitude. I reached rank 2 initial stage at 16, upper stage at 17, and peak stage at 18. When I was 19, I was already beginning my charge to rank 3. At that time, I believed I could be a rank 3 Gu master at 20. Ha, I was too frivolous. I thought I was above everyone else and thought I could accomplish anything. I even thought I was omnipotent. I simply didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It was when I was 20. I went out to do a mission and was beaten by a Xing village's Gu master. I was on the brink of death, but fortunately, Medicine Hall's elder personally moved and saved me. But after that event, my aptitude dropped down to C grade. I couldn't recover from this shock for a whole of 8 years. At my 29th birthday, I started to have another look at myself and this world. I discovered that a single person's strength was limited. So what if I had broken through to rank 3? Living in this society, the most important thing is not individual strength, but the connections with others. I began my life anew when I was 30. I stepped down from the front lines when I was 45. 100 Gu masters jointly petitioned to elect me as an elder dozens of times. Even though I only had the cultivation of rank 2 peak stage, I couldn't take that final step, but there was also no need. I had already achieved success. Clan members call me as the hidden elder. Most of my peers have already passed away, but my life sailed smoothly. I still have influence on many Gu masters. After giving a lengthy report, Gu Yue Dongtu returned to the main topic. He looked at Fang Yuan, his mouth curved up. "Fang Yuan, you are too young and inexperienced, just like I was back then, believing you can accomplish anything and finish everything by yourself. He. Gu Yue Dongtu shook his head and continued, "But when you gain more experience, you will understand that human is a social animal and not a lone beast. Sometimes we need to lower our heads and take a step back. Being an extremist and arrogant person will only bring isolation and destruction. I believe you have already felt it. No group will take you and everyone is leaving you out. Even if you receive the family inheritance mission, what would that do? As a person who has been left out by everyone, you definitely won't have the chance to finish the task. Give up. Fang Yuan indifferently looked at the middle-aged man, his expression calm. I wonder what expression he will show if he knew I have 500 years of experience. Fang Yuan's eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of smile when he thought this. Actually, his uncle's way of thoughts had been his life's concept for a long period of time in his previous life. Thus, he had created the Bloodwing Demon sect, relying on the system and human emotions to create an enormous influence. 10,000s would come forth with his one call, seizing resources and fighting enemies. However, when he broke through to rank 6, he saw a completely new scene. Gu masters up to rank 5 were mortals, but rank 6 were immortals. When he stood at that height and looked at the world, he suddenly comprehended. An enormous influence was indeed a powerful help, but at the same time was an enormous burden. No matter which world, there was only one thing which one could truly rely on. That was oneself. Only that such people were usually weak. People couldn't endure loneliness and liked chasing after family love, friendship, and romance to fill in their spirit. They indulged in being in a group and were afraid of being alone. When they received setbacks, they would hide in the group, complain to relatives, and share with friends. They didn't dare to confront their fears and defeats by themselves. When there was pain, they would be busy sharing it. When there was something good, they would be anxious to boast of it. Gu Yue Dongtu succeeded. No doubt he succeeded. He couldn't walk his original path, so he went in another path and left for a new scene. But at the same time, he was also a failure. He had lowered his head because of one setback. He was no more than a coward, but he was content with his running away. Gu Yue Dongtu didn't know Fang Yuan had already labeled him as a coward. He saw Fang Yuan made no reply, so he thought the latter was absorbed in his speech. He continued, Fang Yuan, I won't beat around the bush. You are not Fang Zheng. If you give up your idea of inheriting the family assets, you will receive my friendship and you can use all my connections. I will also give you 1,000 primeval stones. I know you are hard-pressed for money these days, and you are even late in paying the rent by 2 days, right? Fang Yuan indifferently smiled and spoke, Uncle, you don't wear these clothes often, right? Gu Yue Dongtu was taken aback. He hadn't expected Fang Yuan would suddenly talk about this. Fang Yuan was indeed correct. He had already been retired for a long time now. This uniform was usually stored deep in a box. He had worn this uniform especially to meet Fang Yuan today. It was to increase his persuasion and deterrence power. Fang Yuan sighed. He sized up Gu Yue Dongtu's clothes and continued. A Gu master's uniform isn't so clean and neat. It would be covered with sweat, mud, and blood. It would be in shreds and patches. That is the smell of a Gu master. You are old, uncle. Your great ambitions and aspirations have already disappeared from your youth. These years you have lived an easy life and it has corrupted your heart. You are vying for the family assets, not for cultivation but to maintain your rich life. With such a mentality, how could you obstruct me? Gu Yue Dongtu's face instantly turned ashen, anger surging through his mind. There was always a group of old people in this world. They touted their social experience everywhere. They considered others' dreams as illusions, considered others' passions as frivolous, considered others' persistence as arrogance. They would seek their own existence and superiority by lecturing the later generations. No doubt Gu Yue Dongtu was such a person. He wanted to educate Fang Yuan, but he had never thought that Fang Yuan not only didn't listen to him or yield to him, but would instead lecture him. Fang Yuan, Gu Yue Dongtu shouted, I wanted to guide and persuade you with good intentions as your elder, but you don't know what's good from bad. HMPH, since you want to go against me, then so be it. I'm not afraid to tell you that I already know the contents of your family inheritance mission. Young people don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Haha, I really want to see how you will complete this mission. Fang Yuan had a ridiculing smile on his face. There was no need to conceal now. Anyway, they could no longer reconcile, so there was no harm in enjoying Gu Yue Dongtu's upcoming wonderful expression. Thereupon, he took out the bullskin water bag and opened it. A fragrance that was specific to honey wine floated out. "What do you think is in here?" he asked. Gu Yue Dongtu turned pale with fright. His mood immediately sank to an all-time low. "How can this be? Where did you get this honey wine?" he roared. A stunned expression appeared on his face. Fang Yuan ignored him, closed the cap, put the water bag back and walked towards the Internal Affairs Hall. Gu Yue Dongtu's forehead was covered with cold sweat, many thoughts surging in his mind. Where did he get the honey wine? I already made sure that as long as he looks for other groups, I would get the news the very first moment. Could he have done this alone? No, that's not possible. He doesn't have a defense Gu worm. Someone definitely helped him. No, the point now is not finding the reason. This kid already has the honey wine. He is going to hand over the mission. Gu Yue Dongtu was already panicking as he thought this, and no longer had the calm appearance from moments ago. He quickly chased after Fang Yuan. "Fang Yuan, wait, everything can be discussed." Fang Yuan didn't speak and continued to walk. Gu Yue Dongtu could only follow beside him. If 1,000 primeval stones won't do, then how about 2,000? No, 2,500. Gu Yue Dongtu kept on increasing the offer. Fang Yuan turned a deaf ear to Gu Yue Dongtu, instead increasingly having some expectations towards the family assets. On seeing how Gu Yue Dongtu was so anxious and was continuously raising the offer, the real family assets should definitely be very good. Gu Yue Dongtu was perspiring. He saw Fang Yuan was not moved. His face revealed a fierce look and he threatened, "Fang Yuan, think this through clearly. What end will you have if you offend me? HMPH, don't blame Uncle for being cold-hearted if you miss an arm or leg in the future." Fang Yuan laughed. This Yue Dongtu was really a lamentable person. He was bound by rules and regulations. The water bag was clearly within his reach, but he didn't dare to snatch it. If he didn't even have this much guts, how could he succeed in fighting for the benefits? Riches and danger went together. No matter which world, if you want to obtain something, you need to pay its price. Fang Yuan, you think everything will be well after you get the family assets. You are too young, you don't have a clue about society and its dangers. Gu Yue Dongtu snarled by Fang Yuan's ear. Fang Yuan shook his head and ignored him, walking into the Internal Affairs Hall in front of his glaring eyes. Actually, he didn't hate or even loathe this uncle of his. He had seen a lot of such people and understood this type of people. If Fang Yuan had enough primeval stones to support his cultivation, he wouldn't even fight for the family assets. But what good will giving such insignificant benefits to Uncle do? For what reason was he reborn? It was not for this momentary period, but to step to the highest peak. This type of passerby, as long as they didn't interfere with this and only raged from the side, Fang Yuan would disdain to even step on them. But unfortunately, this Yue Dongtu obstructed Fang Yuan's path. Since it was so, then he will stamp on this obstacle and move forward. Fang Yuan, Fang Yuan. Uncle Gu Yue Dongtu watched on as Fang Yuan stepped into the Internal Affairs Hall. His whole body shook and veins bulged up on his forehead. The light of the setting sun shone on his hair, which was already turning white. He was indeed old. When he sustained that injury at the age of 20, he had already aged. Fang Yuan arrived at the Internal Affairs Hall and turned in the golden honey wine. The middle-aged male Gu master in charge was very surprised. While holding his pen, he asked, You completed the asset mission already. What do you think? Fang Yuan retorted. The middle-aged male Gu master frowned. This was the mission he chose specifically to make life difficult for Fang Yuan. To think he completed it so quickly. He looked at Fang Yuan, his eyes threatening, saying solemnly, "Young man, answer whatever I ask you. If you do not reply honestly, it will affect your evaluation. Let me ask you, did you complete this mission alone? Say the truth, we will investigate thoroughly." "Of course I finished it myself," Fang Yuan replied. "Good, I will note that down." The middle-aged Gu master recorded while laughing internally, "You're just a newbie, how could you complete it alone? Such a falseful report, the clan would definitely investigate. You will have trouble then." But unexpectedly Fang Yuan continued, "But this situation is slightly peculiar. That day I only went to scout out the area, but to think the bear was digging the beehive. Using that chance, I retrieved this honey wine." "What?" The middle-aged man's pen stopped, raising his head to look at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan shrugged, smiling. "What did you think I could accomplish this mission alone? To say the truth, this is all thanks to you, finding this mission for me." The middle-aged Gu master was stunned on the spot, a complex and unexplainable feeling in his heart as he laughed dryly and continued to record in the book. Fang Yuan stared at this man calmly, knowing full well that his extremely difficult asset mission was all thanks to this man. Unfortunately, he had already completed the mission. Even if the clan investigates, Fang Yuan had the appropriate setup already. He could stall Fang Yuan no longer, even if this matter was handled by him. This is the grief of being in the system. Your status is the chain that restricts your actions. All right, your mission is complete. You can inherit the family asset already. Except your asset is all controlled by your uncle and aunt. The Internal Affairs Hall will retrieve it for you. Come back in 3 days. After recording, the middle-aged man said. Fang Yuan nodded. He knew this rule, but he stared at the middle-aged man's record paper, saying, "According to the clan rules, the Internal Affairs mission record needs to be confirmed by the accomplisher on the spot. Please let me see this record." The middle-aged man's expression changed. He did not expect Fang Yuan to be so familiar with the process. He snorted lightly while handling the report to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan looked at the record without any problems. A few hundred words with the final evaluation, "Good." He could immediately see the relationship between Gu Yue Dong Tu and this Gu master. This evaluation was definitely fair, showing that the middle-aged Gu master did not give up on his work ethics just because of Gu Yue Dong Tu. The reason he helped Dong Tu was only because of their friendship and the transaction between them. It was the taking money to settle problems for others type of transaction. Giving the report back to the middle-aged Gu master, Fang Yuan left the Internal Affairs Hall. Outside, Gu Yue Dong Tu was already gone. Fang Yuan could not help but laugh coldly. Gu Yue Dong Tu's influence was not big enough to affect the Internal Affairs Hall. Even if Gu Yue Bo, the clan leader, wanted to do this, he would have to go against the immense pressure from the clan elder circle and pay a huge price in his political career. There was a phrase on Earth called, "Those who live in the society has to follow its rules." There were rules in the society, and that is a form of system. Those who follow the rules, being anyone's pawn piece, restrict each other, and it is not up to them to control. Unless an individual's strength has reached the point where it can oppose the entire organization. Otherwise, joining an organization and wanting to retain freedom was a pointless dream. Borrowing the power of the clan system, Fang Yuan had already affirmed the truth of getting back his assets. Regardless of Gu Yue Dong Tu or the clan leader, they will not pay the political price for interfering with such a small matter. In the guest hall, "Brother Dong Tu, there is nothing I can do anymore. The middle-aged Gu master sighed, standing in front of Gu Yue Dongtu. Gu Yue Dongtu's face was grim, as he remained silent on his seat. "Are there really no more methods?" Beside him, Aunt fearfully asked in an anxious and indignant tone. The middle-aged man shook his head. "The results are set in stone and have entered the Internal Affairs Hall's procedure, unless the two clan elders in power or the clan leader interferes. Brother Dong Tu, this Internal Affairs Hall's inventory list states clearly the inheritance items and amount. Please return them all and don't make my life difficult." Saying so, he took out the inventory list. The inventory had a ton of records, from expensive items like estates to cheap tables or chairs. Other than that, there were also the goo worms that Fang Yuan's parents had left behind. After a goo master dies of battle, their goo worms would be retrieved as an inheritance for their successor. This was a political move by the clan. Aunt took a look at the list before losing her composure. "Damn it, you cannot do this. This is all ours. Hubby, say something, think of something. Without these assets, what do we have left? Even our servants will be gone by half. We cannot afford it." Slap! Gu Yue Dongtu stood up and sent his palm flying towards Aunt, sending her to the ground from her seat. "Noisy bitch!" Uncle flew into a rage, scolding in an agitated tone. "Frog in the well, the clan rules are there. You think you can choose not to return them? Dumb, ignorant." Aunt used her hand to cover her cheeks, beaten into stupidity, lying on the ground in shock, staring at her husband blankly. HMPH. Gu Yue Dongtu grabbed the inventory list, gritting his teeth, scanning through. His eyes were filled with blood traces as he breathed heavily, saying with hatred, "Return. All these things. I will return. Not a thing less. But—" His veins popped from his forehead, the muscles on his face twitching, his expression full of ruthlessness. "But Fang Yuan, I cannot stop the Internal Affairs Hall, yet I can deal with you. Don't think everything is well and alive now that you have these assets, HMPH. 3 days later, Fang Yuan walked out from the Internal Affairs Hall with a stack of house and land deeds, and sold human contracts in his hands. To think this inheritance is so abundant, he was slightly stunned. Even though Fang Yuan had some estimations, after receiving this asset list, it was way out of his expectations. Over 10 mu of farmland, 8 family servants and 3 bamboo buildings, and a wine tavern. No wonder Uncle was so insistent, thinking of all ways to stop me. Fang Yuan could understand Gu Yue Dongtu's actions. With such a large family asset, even in this world, one could live like a king. 10 mu of farmland, 8 family servants, put this aside first. Those 3 bamboo buildings were property assets. Even if they were only rented out every month, the rental amount was enough to support Fang Yuan's current cultivation. Other than that, there is also a wine tavern. Note that there is only 4 wine-selling areas in the entire village. Such an asset, if on Earth, would be equivalent to having several mansions and a hotel. It is an aristocrat life with multiple servants. What's worth mentioning is, this world's living conditions was way more ruthless and difficult, thus the village being the safest location, priced the property assets even more expensively than on Earth. It is said that my Fang family, 3 generations ago, had a clan elder who held power and left much inheritance for his future generations. With these family assets, the 7 goo worms aside, even if that number doubled, I can still afford them. But the crucial point isn't this. It is this grass goo. At this point, there was a grass goo lying quietly in Fang Yuan's palm. It was dainty and delicate, the emerald green roots resembling a ginseng's beard. There were some semi-transparent stolon that was like jadeite. 9 pieces of round-shaped leaves that were jade green covered and reflected each other, forming the shape of a round plate. This was the 9-leaf vitality grass, the healing type rank 2 goo worm. If it came to normal healing, It had no difference from the life-breath grass. The true value of the 9-leaf vitality grass lay in its leaves. Every one of the leaves torn from it was a vitality leaf. Vitality leaf is also a type of grass goo. At rank 1, it is an expendable type, disappearing after one use. It had another flaw, and that was when a piece of vitality leaf is used to heal injuries. Within the next hour, other vitality leaves had no more healing effect on the person. But all in all, it was easy to refine. An instantaneous healing together with the easy feeding of it made it the most popular healing technique among rank 2 goo masters. Healing goo master, every group needed one. But in times where multiple goo masters were injured, what can a single goo master do? If the healing goo master was the one who died or got lost, what happens to the rest? Thus, goo masters always prepared some healing methods for themselves, and the vitality leaf was the best method. Every goo master that roamed outside needed to prepare at least one or two. After I refined the 9-leaf vitality grass, every piece of leaf torn out would be a vitality leaf. Using the primeval essence to inject into the grass, I can make it grow new leaves. Thus, this 9-leaf vitality grass can be said to be a moving goldmine, the most important asset of all, without exception. Having this 9-leaf vitality grass is an avenue of business. In this dangerous world, which goo master does not get injured on their missions, they have a perpetual need for the vitality leaf. No wonder Gu Yue Dong Tu was known as the Hidden Elder. Even after he retired many years ago, he still held great influence outside. So the reason was this 9-leaf vitality grass. Gu masters needed the vitality leaf, and Gu Yue Dong Tu sold the leaf. With such a relationship, it is no question that his influence remained. Fang Yuan was enlightened. Only in this world are clan relationships raised to such a level, restraining uncle and aunt. If this was Earth, with such a conflict of interest, Fang Zheng and I would already have had been killed by them. This is not good. It seems I have some trouble ahead. Uncle and aunt will not let go so easily. But I have already grown up with rank 2 cultivation. If they want to deal with me and also consider the clan regulations, they would be highly restricted. HMPH, regardless of what they do, just show me what you've got. Dealing with it as it comes, I will handle them all. Fang Yuan walked on the street, his eyes glimmering in brilliance. A gust of winter wind blew on his face. It was still far from spring, but Fang Yuan knew that start of his new life, had already come. The wine tavern wasn't big, but it was in a good location. It was at the eastern side of the village near the eastern gate. The flow of people was the largest at the eastern and northern gates. Thus, the wine tavern's business was pretty good whether it was day or night. "Young lord, please take a seat." An old man lowered his head to Fang Yuan. Few waiters wiped the benches and tables with a fawning and flattering smile towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan shook his head. He didn't sit but walked around the tavern sizing everything. He thought inwardly, "This is my wine tavern." This wine tavern only had one floor, but it had an underground wine cellar. Huge and square black tiles covered the floor. There were 8 square tables. 2 tables were set against the wall, and other 6 tables were surrounded by 4 benches. A dark brown, long sales counter could be seen immediately upon entering the wine tavern. There were papers, brush, ink stones, and also an abacus on the counter. Behind the counter was the liquor cabinet where all sizes of wine jars were displayed. Some of these were large wine jars of black pottery, and some were small and bright porcelain wine bottles. Fang Yuan was walking around as he wished. The old man and waiters didn't dare to sit. They could only follow close behind. They were restless. The news of the landlord changing was too abrupt. The previous landlord Gu Yue Dong Tu was cunning as a ghost. He was strict and acrimonious. They were under a lot of pressure. This boy in front of them was actually able to take the wine tavern from Gu Yue Dong Tu's hands. Such a method of snatching was shocking. so these people's gazes towards Fang Yuan carried unease and fear. Fang Yuan suddenly stopped. "It is good, but this store is a bit small." The old man immediately walked forward and bowed to answer. "Young lord, we put sheds outside every summer and lay tables and benches. But it is winter now and the wind is biting cold. No one would sit outside even if we put up sheds, so we took them down." Fang Yuan slightly turned. He glanced at this old man. "You are the shopkeeper." The old bent his waist even lower and said even more respectfully, I dare not. Young lord, this wine tavern is yours. Whoever you choose as a shopkeeper is the shopkeeper." Fang Yuan nodded, then glanced at the waiters. They all seemed to be competent. If it was on Earth, he would be anxious that this shopkeeper and the waiters would team up and scheme against him, the owner. But in this world, Gu masters were high and mighty. Killing mortals would only require a thought. Even if uncle and aunt egged them, these mortals wouldn't dare to go against Fang Yuan. "All right, bring the accounting books and bring me a pot of tea." Fang Yuan sat down. "Yes, young lord." The shopkeeper and waiters moved hurriedly. There were as much as 16 account books, and every book used bamboo papers which had a light green hue. The bamboo papers were more brittle than Xuan paper and were suitable for the damp atmosphere of the southern border. Fang Yuan casually picked up a few books and skimmed over them, asking some questions occasionally. The shopkeeper gave prompt replies. Soon, his forehead was covered with sweat. Fang Yuan had created the Bloodwing Demon sect and taught countless people in his previous life. He was rich in experience, and his eyes were shrewd. Others might be confused and dazzled when they see the account books. But in his eyes, all the doubtful points were as clear as crystal. This wine tavern was the second biggest asset after the 9-leaf vitality grass. Fang Yuan naturally wanted to firmly grasp it. There were only some small problems in the account books which could be attributed to mistakes and negligence. These mortals didn't dare to be presumptuous. However, when Fang Yuan turned to the last page, he saw that this month's income had already been taken by Gu Yue Dong Tu. "Young lord, the previous landlord personally took it. We didn't dare to resist," the shopkeeper replied while wiping his sweat. His aged body was already trembling and his face had become very pale. Fang Yuan was silent. He put down the account books on the table and glanced at the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper immediately felt a huge pressure as if a mountain was pressing down on him. He was scared witless, kneeling on the ground. Seeing the shopkeeper kneeling down, the waiters also astutely knelt down one by one. Fang Yuan calmly sat and turned his gaze towards them. The waiters immediately felt like they were in a world of ice. They couldn't resist Fang Yuan's aura. They were all silent. To these mortals, the wine tavern's work was both stable and safe, the ideal job. They didn't want to lose this job. Fang Yuan stopped upon seeing that his authority had been established. Going too far could end up being detrimental. He slowly spoke. "I won't bother about the past matters. I saw that your wages are somewhat low. Waiters' wages will be raised by 20% and the shopkeepers by 40% from now on. Work properly and you will get more benefits." Fang Yuan stood up and walked to the entrance. The group of people kneeling on the ground were stunned for a good while before coming back to their senses. All of their eyes brimmed with tears that flowed down their faces. "Thank you, young lord, for your great kindness." "Young lord is compassionate. We will definitely work with all our strength." "Young lord, you are our benefactor. Please take care." Tearful sounds came from behind. There were also crisp sounds of forehead smashing on the black tiles from continuous kowtowing. Use might alongside mercy. This was the only way the top controlled its subordinates no matter in which world. Might was the foundation, and under this might, any small kindness would be magnified by countless times. A benefit without might would only give a title of a good Samaritan. But as time passed, people would no longer feel grateful for such kindness, and it would instead result in greed and disaster. But these ways to control people are all unorthodox methods. It would be highly esteemed on Earth, but in this world, raising one's own strength is the one true way. No, even on Earth, strength is first. Fang Yuan thought of the scarlet-red imperial ancestor. In those days, the scarlet-red imperial ancestor had gone through and experienced a trial, and he had come to a conclusion. Political power comes from guns. This was the naked truth. Strength was the foundation of any political power. So-called authority is only an accessory to strength. Actually, not only authority, wealth and beauties were also derivatives of strength. Fang Yuan headed towards the 3 bamboo houses after leaving the wine tavern. These 3 bamboo houses were rented out by uncle and aunt. They were practically full. This world paid attention to more birth. To the ever-growing huge population, the space in the village seemed narrow. The clan had the system of the eldest son inheriting the property. Other sons and daughters would have to rely on their effort. Even if a lot of people relied on clan politics to get a meager split of the family assets and work hard outside, they might not even be able to save enough to buy a bamboo house in their whole life. On one hand, raising goo consumed a lot, and on the other, the village had limited space, so the house prices were very expensive. They could naturally build house outside the village, but that was not safe. Wild beasts and snakes would always roam around and could intrude into the houses. Above all, every time a beast tide occurred, all the houses outside the village would be destroyed. Extending the village was the only way to solve this. But extending meant the area to defend would increase, and the village wouldn't be able to defend against beast tide's attacks. Moreover, if the area was big then, it would be difficult to guard against and search for infiltrating Gu masters of other villages. Gu Yue village had extended several times in history, but had been devastated by beast tides. After learning from this lesson, the current village size was already the largest. Fang Yuan skimmed through it, and after understanding some situations, he already got the picture. These 3 bamboo houses were operated very well by uncle and aunt. The rent was also customized to get more profits, so he might as well just let it run like that. He calculated that the earnings from these 3 bamboo houses were not as much as the wine tavern, but the difference was not much. The overall situation was much better than Fang Yuan's original expectations. Just the day before yesterday, he was left with nothing and had become so poor that his primeval stones count didn't even reach 5. But now, all of a sudden, he rose to the list of richest people in the clan. The female tenants in these rented houses were all ranked 2 female Gu masters in difficulty. After knowing Fang Yuan's identity, their gaze towards him turned amorous. If they could be near to Fang Yuan and get married to him, then they would no longer have to rush about facing danger. Their lives would be smooth and steady. Such a life was what they were pursuing and using all their strength to fight for. That is to say that if Fang Yuan wanted, he could retire and live a rich life now like his uncle used to. With a tap of a finger, many female Gu masters would flock to him. But that is not what I want. Fang Yuan stood at the 2nd floor of the bamboo house, letting female Gu masters' provocative gazes fall upon his body. He frowned as he held the railings and gazed afar. Far away, stretched of green mountains went on continuously, looking like a sleeping giant with the gray-blue sky as its quilt. The endless rivers and boundless earth, when can I move unhindered on them? Amidst the winds of change, dragons and snakes rise from the lands. When can I look down upon all living things? Since rebirth, I have been drifting with the waves like a rootless duckweed. I spared no effort to get the family assets. With this base, I can be said to have become independent and gained my footing. Next would be to unearth the flower wine monk's inheritance and put all my effort in cultivating to rank 3. Then I can leave this village and go out to the wide world. Fire burned in Fang Yuan's deep black eyes. Qingmao Mountain was one of the countless mountains in the southern border, and the southern border was only a corner of this world. Too small, too small. How could such a place sustain his lofty ambitions? Compared to his ambitions, these family assets, which others were cracking their brains to obtain, which was a thing of yearning, was as tiny as dust. Big brother, come down, I need to talk to you. At some point in time, Gu Yue Fang Zheng had reached the bamboo house. He looked up at Fang Yuan and yelled. Fang Yuan's train of thoughts were broken. He looked down at Fang Zhen with an indifferent look. The brothers' eyes met. It was silent. Younger brother Fang Zheng was downstairs and was shrouded by the shadow of another house. He was facing up. His eyebrows were raised and his 2 eyes were flickering with light. Big brother Fang Yuan was upstairs. Sunlight shone on him. His slightly drooping eyes had pupils as dark as night. Similar faces reflected in each other's eyes. As to his little brother's appearance, Fang Yuan wasn't surprised. Fang Zheng was a weapon of uncle and aunt to fight for family assets. And yet, so what? Fang Yuan looked down at Fang Zheng, sighing inwardly. A grade aptitude, but is nothing more than a pawn, truly insignificant.